Mayor Pro Tem Gavin,
Here.
Councilmember Hennan,
Here.
Councilmember Patterson,
Here.
Councilmember Villani,
Here.
Mayor Dean.
Here. Our first order of business is the approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin with support from Councilmember Hennan. Are there any changes or corrections? Seeing none, Ms. Mitchell, will you please call the roll?
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Villani,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the agenda has been approved. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've now come to the public comments portion of the meeting where you may present your thoughts on items that are not on tonight's agenda. If your concern needs to be addressed by a member of city staff or a department of the city, please leave your name and contact information on the sheet that is located on the table just outside this door. Council members will not engage you in discussion. Please refrain from cheering, booing, clapping, or speaking out of turn. You may speak on a specific agenda item when it is being considered. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to tell us what's on your mind or in your heart.
Good evening. Jeffrey Tong, Berkley resident. I'm a member of the Berkley Historical Committee, and actually there are two of us here tonight. I'm going to be followed by Dale Carlson, also Berkley resident, a member of the Berkley Historical Committee. There is so much going on at the museum. We've never been this busy, and we have several things to tell you about tonight. I'm going to cover 3 of them. First of all, we are now selling the house plaques. We are now selling plaques people can put on their house, which with the year the house was constructed. These are made out of composite material. They're made out of the same material they use for outdoor signs, so they're strong, long-lasting. They're being made in Berkley at the Hunt Sign Company, so they're local. They're $40 each, and you can order them at the Berkley Historical Museum. We've sold several already, and last Sunday the mayor came in and added herself to the list. I think they're very handsome. We wanted to go with a material that was affordable for most people. You know, we looked at expensive things that would be like $200 each, and we tried to keep something that was affordable. So this is part of our special project to honor this year, our 100th anniversary.
And if I may add, if you don't know the year that your house was
Yes.
built, you just put a question mark and the Historical Commission will figure that out for you.
Yes, we do have
Somebody
ways
will.
of checking dates. Pretty good. There are early houses. We have houses that go back to the 1800s, and it's
Wow.
really hard to get an exact date for them, but we can work with real estate people, and we can come up with at least what the official records show is the year the house was built. Next thing, we are still looking for suggestions for things to put in the time capsule. We're going to bury a time capsule that can be dug up 100 years from now. So first of all, everybody put it on your calendar. 100 years from now, we're all going to gather and dig up this time capsule. And we're looking for suggestions both from the public and from the city agencies and all of you. For example, public safety. I don't know if you've noticed, but the public safety officers this year are wearing special bands that commemorate the 100th anniversary of Berkley. And they gave us one of these to put in the time capsule.
Nice.
So this is the kind of thing. We'll have photos of Berkley from this period, and just a wide variety of things. I borrowed menus from some of our restaurants like Alex's and the Lunch Cafe, and we'll put that kind of thing in. But the idea is 100 years from now it would show people what life was like in Berkley around this period. Finally, another thing to mark your calendar, and this is a real date, September 29th. This fall is sadly the 30th year since the Berkley Theater closed. And we wanted to not celebrate this, but commemorate the closing of the Berkley Theater. So in conjunction with the last owners of the Berkley Theater, the Comer family, and the Redford Theater in Detroit, we're going to be having a special program September 29th at the Redford Theater. You'll find all this information on our website and on the Facebook page. The Comers will be there, and they will talk about what it was like to be the last owners of the Berkley Theater and what it was like to run it. And we will have displays in the lobby, the Historical Museum, with photos of the Berkley Theater and newspaper articles and things like that. And they will be showing a movie. And they let the Comers select the movie to best honor the Berkley Theater. And they picked, first of all, one of their favorite movies of all time, Paul Newman, Robert Redford, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And they picked it because it was one of their favorite movies and because it ran longer at the Berkley Theater than any other movie. It ran for 104 straight nights.
Wow.
Matter of fact, they told me they made so much money off that movie, they paid off their mortgage. So join us. So let's all celebrate the Berkley Theater. It meant so much to so many of, at least my generation, of people who grew up at Berkley and remember going there. So join us September 29th at the Redford Theater. You can buy tickets online now at redfordtheater.com, or you can buy them at the box office, $8. So that's 3 of the items, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague. It looks like I'm running away from you, but I am double booked. I'm supposed to be at another meeting right now, too. So thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Dean, City Council. My name is Dale Carlson. I'm the Secretary of the Berkley Historical Committee, a role in which I've been proudly serving for 4 years now. I'm here to tell you and the community tonight about a few events that we've been working on that are upcoming. And the first is the Berkley Kit Home Tour to take place on Saturday, September 30th, 2023 from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. This event is cooperatively sponsored and presented by the Berkley Chamber of Commerce and the Berkley Historical Committee and is the brainchild of Berkley Chamber member Timothy Murad. It will include walkthroughs of approximately 6 to 10 kit homes within the city limits, constructed between the years of 1915 and 1930. Tickets will be $25 each and soon available at the Berkley Historical Museum at 3338 Coolidge Highway. We'll be staffing this event through a volunteer effort, so any residents interested in contributing are encouraged to contact either myself at 248-259-8339 or Tim Murad at 248-410-6283. The second event I'd like to inform you all of is the unveiling of a Michigan State historical marker at the old Berkley Village Hall and Fire Police Station, hopefully on the afternoon of Saturday, October 14th. And this is one of these really cool green with gold lettering official state of Michigan historical markers. Our unveiling is currently contingent upon its timely delivery. It's expected to arrive at City Hall this month or next, but there have been a couple of delivery delays thus far. So this event's date is in fact tentative, but we are hopeful that we'll take delivery in time. The exact time of day of the event has yet to be determined, but that's will be coming up soon, and interested parties can keep track of developments through the Berkley Historical Museum's Facebook page and the city's website. Finally, I'd also like to mention the unveiling of the Angel School historical marker that took place on May 19th, 2023, as well as an upcoming unveiling of a historical marker for the Pattengill School that will take place in either October of this year or spring next year. Both of these projects were spearheaded by Berkley Historical Committee Don Callahan. The Angel School marker was financed by the city's Historical Committee and the Berkley High School Alumni Association, while the Pattengill marker was financed solely by our committee. The Angel School marker commemorates the 100th anniversary of the school's first building, constructed in 1921. The Pattengill School's marker unveiling will loosely coincide with the building's 100th anniversary, which is in 2025, although that's not mentioned on the marker. We'd like to acknowledge the great work of our colleague Don Callahan and invite the public to attend the Pattonville School's upcoming historical marker unveiling, for which a date will soon be publicly announced. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
I have
Bill.
got to get to the same meeting as Jeffrey. So you all have a wonderful night. Where did he go? Did he left this? This is his stuff, isn't it? I think so. Yeah, well. I'm headed to the same meeting as him, so thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Boos, 1820 Beverly, and I'm the one who sent every one of you an email Friday morning regarding the chipper service. And first of all, I'd like to start, thanking you for your service to the city. We all appreciate that, and I know it's a thankless task. And then my next question is, who of you have read it, or if you haven't read it, would you like to indicate? So I know how to address this. Have you all read it? Okay, good. So obviously and then the next question is, were there any flaws in my methodology, in my calculation? Because it's important to focus in according to my information, and if I'm wrong, I'd like to have that corrected so I can recalculate. And this is something perhaps that needs to be on a formal agenda to discuss why these cuts were made to the service, because when you look at it, it just does not make sense mathematically. It's a service that costs $10 a year per resident, or per household. That's not even resident, that's per household. And for me to get that done, and by the way, I'm talking about the chipper service that was cut from the budget, and is supposed to be put on us to do on our own, which I think is a very bad idea. The only person who called me back said he wouldn't come out for less than $350. And I had left messages with other companies and no one called back. So I see this, and I'm not alone. I brought some, my little cheering gallery over here. This is an inherently governmental function. It's not something that should be spread to the person. To do that, it would be like having me be responsible for plowing the street in front of my house. If I don't do it, and my neighbors do, then mine is not plowed. Same thing applies with the chipper, with the trash. Some people are just gonna leave it in their backyards or wherever they can to attract vermin. And it's not at all cost effective. So what I would like to know, and again, I can get on a formal agenda, but ultimately, we need to know how we can get this back in the budget, because it makes no sense to push that on us. And I'd also like to know why and how, because quite frankly, it's been suggested that this was a vindictive cut. Well, it's been suggested, and show us that it wasn't, because when you look at the numbers, it's just not a prudent cut to make, and it should be reinstated. So I believe you don't have any opportunity to comment to anything I said at this point, right? So then I would imagine, since I do want your comments, I need to get on the formal agenda to have this discussed in more detail, because this is, just coming up here and saying something doesn't get us anywhere.
We can follow up with you via email. As I mentioned in the beginning of public comments, there's a table
I did.
outside.
You have my email.
And we have your email, and we absolutely will follow up with you.
Okay, but I mean, I need to know, I do want the questions answered. Why and what needs to be done to reinstate it?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Charles Terrell from Berkley. At the last meeting, I spoke of the May 15th resolution R1223, the new waste removal tax that's being applied to quote-unquote commercial properties. Nobody has followed up. I signed up on the form. I haven't heard from staff or from anyone else about this, why you think you can have a tax added to the water bill without a vote of, a Headley vote. Some things have come up since then. I've found out it's not just being applied to businesses, it's being applied to houses of worship, to churches, VFW, American Legion. They're all getting hit with this. The DPW is telling people that this is $41.05 a month, but the resolution says it's $45.01 a week. So that's misinformation. The DPW is telling businesses, well, if you do 8 yards a week, we'll just use 8 yards because the math is easy for me, then you get the 2-yard dumpster, fill it up, and then just bag your other 6 yards and put it out for regular trash day. That is going to be, if somebody is silly enough to do that, that's just going to make a mess of things. That's going to attract rats even worse than we've got them now. This whole thing is wrong from its inception. It's wrong in its implementation. It's got to be stopped. You got to pull it back right now because it is an illegal tax. Most of these places already have agreements with waste haulers. They don't need this. They don't need another 2-yard dumpster. They don't need another 2-yard pickup. They've already got this stuff under contract. This is so wrong. I implore you now to go back and revisit Resolution R1223, pull this out of there, and anybody who has been billed, who has paid for that illegal tax, be reimbursed for it. Because it is not just hitting commercial, industrial, and business sites. It's hitting other places too. It's hitting the churches. It's hitting the social organizations. So I implore you to go back and fix this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Hi, Mike Wysick. I live in Berkeley. Just wanted to clarify my neighbor's comment. The chipper service actually is in the budget. It's just that the service has been cut. So I just wanted to clarify for anyone in the room who didn't know that it is currently in the operating budget, but y'all are just choosing not to provide the service.
Hi, Greg DeRoss, Bacon Avenue. I've had change modify my remarks a bit. I wanted to ask a couple of financial questions or pose them for the community and the council, but I went to look at some of the agenda materials, and I didn't see any financial reports for the council. I saw a check warrant, which is not a financial report. It's a list of checks and other payments that have been made each month. So I guess my first question really that I'm hoping that will get answered, if not tonight, soon, is does the council receive periodic financial reports? And if they do, why wouldn't they be included with materials for the agenda? I looked at a number of months over the past 2 years. There's also something, some of you, maybe all of you are aware that there's been talk about something called a variance report that some people have, some members of the new committee that's being formed have asked for. For those of you that are unfamiliar, a variance report compares actual spending to the original budget that was approved, and it can help the council perform their financial oversight responsibilities. It's a summary report by department. And for those of you that are not familiar, I'm going to pass out here a couple of copies that you can circulate and take a look at. It's just a mock-up using some of the categories that So for those of you that are unfamiliar with this and not into finance, here's a couple of copies that you can circulate if I can get the pages apart.
Mr. DeRoss, please direct your comments to the chair.
So I guess the question is the software of our computer system able to produce a variance report? And if it is, why can't it be made available? Is it made available to the council, and what frequency? And if it isn't capable of being produced, then I guess the question is, what does the council use to carry out their financial oversight responsibilities? I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell, have you received any correspondence to be entered into tonight's record?
I have.
Okay.
One, Lois Henry, Berkeley, would like to use the crossing light near the library. She states there has been black tape on the button since it was installed. She described the medical reasons using the button as necessary, along with her love for Berkeley and need for accessible access for those in need of help to cross the street safely in order to utilize city services. Miles Handy, CEO of PuppyGram, stated he reached out to city officials back in September about PuppyGram coming to Berkeley. He said after looking at 2 locations, he chose the Woodward spot to breathe life back into the building. He stated he met all zoning requirements. He hired an engineer in December and began demo and remodeling in January. He said they redid the interior with no concerns from the city. He said after the full renovation and passing the final inspection, he was notified that 3 Berkeley officials were meeting to shut him down. He said after that point, they opened in February and then were shut down due to not having a business license after he was told it would come in the mail. He stated he was closed down to obtain a rental license and lost his trained staff. He said he reopened on March 2nd to then learn about the ordinance that would put regulations in place above what the state requires and ultimately shut him down. He wants to know why the city didn't tell him last year he wasn't welcome. He wants to know why we are letting outside special interest groups help draft the city's ordinance, and said people should have their right to choose where they get their puppies. Kate McAllister, Berkeley resident and PuppyGram employee, stated she loves being a PuppyGram. She loves being at PuppyGram, learning about all of the breeds. She loves animals and wants to be a veterinarian one day. She said the store is clean, well organized, and welcoming. She said the staff takes great care of the dogs and always puts their health first. She said people have been judgmental based on what they hear before having a full understanding of the store. Rumiana Georgiev, DVM Southfield, said they have been serving PuppyGram since March 2023. The entire staff is impressed with the PuppyGram owner and his staff regarding their concerns for affection and well-being. The email states she was skeptical at first, but puppies seen at 9 and Tell Animal Hospital have been well selected with no congenital defects, and puppies presented clean, good health, and good spirits. Linda Carroll, mother of PuppyGram volunteer, stated her daughter has learned so much about taking care of puppies from her opportunity at PuppyGram. She stated her interaction with the puppies and also the customer has taught her young daughter so much about life. She said she would never let her daughter work somewhere that mistreats animals. She asked council doesn't take away this opportunity from her daughter. She said the city should be honored to have PuppyGram in its community. Allie Bertling, Berkeley resident and PuppyGram employee, states they have taken very well care of their puppies in a clean environment and treat them as their own. She states all puppies are up to date on vaccines and vet checked twice. She said she provides transportation to the vet visits herself. She said she has a passion for animals and would never work anywhere where animals are mistreated. Don Dreyer, Berkeley resident, stated he is against the proposed legislation aimed at PuppyGram. He would like to know if council ran the proposed ordinance through a legal professional. He states his biggest issue with the ordinance is that it opens up the city being involved in a preventable lawsuit. He would like a response of what the liability will cost the city and taxpayers. That is all.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell, please read the items on tonight's consent agenda.
1, approval of the minutes. Matter of approving the minutes of the 39th regular city council meeting on Monday, July 17th, 2023, and special city council meetings on Monday, June 19th, 2023, and Tuesday, July 27th, 2023. Warrant matter of approving warrant number 1389. 3, resolution number R1823, matter of approving participation in the Thai Michigan Teal campaign to promote awareness of ovarian cancer and its symptoms. 4, proclamation number P2323, matter proclaiming September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Month. 5, proclamation number P2423, matter proclaiming September 2023 as National Recovery Month. 6, proclamation number P2523, matter proclaiming September 2023 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. 7, proclamation number P2623, matter proclaiming September 2023 as National Preparedness Month.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Hennan with support from Councilmember Dooley. Are there any corrections or additions? Councilmember Hennan?
Yes, so speaking with Councilmember Baker, who was unable to be here tonight because of illness, there were a couple of errors.
I think they've been corrected. I don't mean to,
corrected.
but
Yes, they've
Yeah.
been corrected.
Okay. Okay, do we need, since the public doesn't know about them, do we need to do anything, or?
yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, we're already here. Baker was marked as voting yes on ordinance, on the pet store ordinance, and the tabling the motion for, and it was tabling, not approving the motion for the EV chargers when he voted no on those.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
those are the only changes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the consent agenda has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 1 on tonight's regular agenda.
Recognitions, presentations, matter of any recognitions or presentations from the consent agenda.
Okay, I've asked Councilmember Valani to read R 1823.
Yes. A resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, establishing a resolution to tie teal ribbons. Whereas Tie Michigan Teal is a statewide campaign designed to promote awareness of ovarian cancer and its symptoms. And whereas teal is the color representing ovarian cancer. And whereas ovarian cancer is the deadliest of the gynecological cancers and one of the 5 leading cancer-related deaths among women in the United States. And whereas each year approximately 22,000 women are diagnosed with the disease and 15,000 women will die. And whereas women diagnosed with ovarian cancer have an average 5-year survival rate of 45%. And whereas, unlike other cancers, there is no early detection test for ovarian cancer, and because symptoms, which are often subtle and mimic other disease awareness of symptoms, is the key to early diagnosis. And whereas Tie Michigan Teal consists of volunteers tying ribbons on lampposts, trees, and signposts, and providing local businesses and offices with symptom information cards. And whereas Tie Michigan Teal takes place the entire month of September, and the City of Berkley supports their efforts to educate our residents and all members of the public about ovarian cancer and its symptoms. And now, therefore, the City of Berkley resolves. Section 1. I, Berkley Mayor, and the members of the Berkley City Council hereby proclaim September 2023 as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and will join Tie Michigan Teal with communities across the state, and will have teal ribbons tied on lampposts, trees, and signposts, and informational cards distributed to local businesses and offices to raise awareness of ovarian cancer and its symptoms. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, August 14th, 2023, by Bridget Dean, Mayor.
Thank you. I've asked Councilmember Hennan to read P 2323.
A proclamation of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, proclaiming September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Month. Whereas September is known as National Suicide Prevention Month and is intended to help raise awareness surrounding suicide prevention resources available in the community. And whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone, regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background. And whereas, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among adults and the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34 in the United States. And whereas, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, each year more than 48,000 people die by suicide. And whereas, organizations like the National Alliance on Mental Illness and National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 800-273-TALK, work to help individuals in crisis and provide resources to shed light on this highly stigmatized topic. And whereas, in 2020, Congress designated the new 988 dialing code to operate through the existing National Suicide Prevention Lifeline to help expand the crisis care system to better provide direct, life-saving services to all in need. And whereas, every year, thousands of individuals die by suicide, leaving behind friends and family members to navigate the tragedy of loss. Often feelings of shame and stigma prevent them from talking openly. Whereas, Oakland County Health Network is committed to being a zero suicide organization and cultivating a network of providers who are engaged in the zero suicide philosophy. Now therefore, the City of Berkeley hereby proclaims that the month of September 2023 is hereby proclaimed as National Suicide Prevention Month in the City of Berkeley. And the City of Berkeley calls upon all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increasing the awareness and understanding of suicide prevention and the need for appropriate and accessible services to assist individuals in crisis. Proclaim this 14th day of August 2023 at a regular meeting of the Berkeley City Council. Bridget Dean, Mayor.
Thank you. And I've asked Councilmember Patterson to read P 2423.
A proclamation of the Council of the City of Berkeley, Michigan, proclaiming September 2023 as National Recovery Month. Whereas, substance use disorders occur when the recurrent use of alcohol and other drugs causes clinically and functionally significant impairment, such as health problems, disability, and failure to meet major responsibilities at work, school, or home. And whereas, according to Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, in 2019, 9.5 million people 18 or older had both a substance use disorder and mental health illness. And whereas, stigma and stereotypes associated with substance use disorders often keep people from seeking treatment that could improve their quality of life. And whereas, substance use disorder recovery is a journey of healing and transformation, enabling people to live in a community of their choice while striving to achieve their full potential. And whereas, substance abuse disorder recovery benefits individuals living with these disorders by focusing on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society, and also enriches the culture of our community. Whereas, substance use recovery is important for individual well-being and vitality, as well as families, friends, community, and businesses. And whereas, we believe everyone facing substance use disorder is capable of living a life in recovery. And whereas, we will continue to educate and raise awareness of the risk and potential harm associated with prescription drug misuse. And now therefore, the City of Berkeley hereby proclaims, Section 1, that the month of September 2023 is hereby proclaimed as National Recovery Month in the City of Berkeley. Section 2, the City of Berkeley calls upon all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of substance use and the need for appropriate and accessible services to promote recovery. Proclaimed this 14th day of August 2023 at a regular meeting of the Berkeley City Council. Bridget Dean, Mayor.
Thank you. And finally, I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Gavin to read P 2523.
Thank you, Your Honor. A proclamation of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, proclaiming September 2023 as National Preparedness Month. Whereas each year Michigan experiences a variety of emergencies and natural disasters.
Childhood cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said 2623.
25, 23.
Oh,
I'm
my bad. I
sorry.
apologize for that. The other one's good too, so make sure you read it. A proclamation of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, proclaiming September 2023 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas 43 children in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer each day at an average age of 6 years old, and of those diagnosed, 1 out of 5 children will not survive the disease. And whereas pediatric cancer is not just one disease, but is made up of a dozen types and subtypes of cancer. These types of cancers are most often very different from those that affect adults. And whereas pediatric cancers can be diagnosed in children regardless of their gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background. And whereas pediatric cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in U.S. children under 15 years of age, surpassing that of AIDS, asthma, cystic fibrosis, diabetes, and muscular dystrophy combined. And whereas the causes of most pediatric cancers are largely unknown and not strongly linked to lifestyle, unlike adult cancers. And whereas 2/3 of pediatric cancer patients will develop long-lasting chronic conditions resulting from treatment. And whereas the pediatric cancer rates have been rising for the past decades, and approximately 15,780 adolescents in the U.S. under the age of 19 will be diagnosed with cancer in 2022. And whereas in the last 25 years, only 3 drugs have been specifically developed for children's cancer. And whereas less than 5% of the federal government's total funding for cancer research is dedicated to childhood cancers, only about 4% of funds raised for the National Cancer Institute go directly to pediatric cancer research, and funding for pediatric cancer research has continued to steadily decrease since 2003. And whereas, despite major advances in treatment, it is still critically important to conduct research and increase awareness regarding pediatric cancer. Now, therefore, the City of Berkley hereby proclaims, Section 1, that the month of September 2023 is hereby proclaimed as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Berkley. Proclaim this 14th day of August 2023 at a regular meeting of the Berkley City Council. Bridget Dean, Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 2 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M5323, matter of accepting and receiving a presentation from Fishbeck on the recommendations of the City of Berkley parking study.
Is there a motion to approve M5323?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Councilmember Patterson with support from Councilmember Villani. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Your packet includes a memo from Community Development Director Kapelansky, as well as a copy of this presentation and report was shared in advance of the meeting this evening. Ms. Kapelansky has prepared a presentation for you this evening.
Thank you.
So actually, we have John Forster here from Fishbeck to give that presentation for you this evening.
Thank you.
I'm available for any questions afterwards if there's anything general, but Mr. Forster can answer those as well.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. Love to come talk about parking. It's my life. So we've got a few slides turned into Kristen a fair amount of information. I think she's forwarded most of it on to you, but this is a summation of the parking plan we put together over the last several months. The goals of the study, as outlined in the RFP when you issued it, a parking system that supports livability in the neighborhoods and development in downtown and along the commercial corridors, a realistic plan for effective use and management of downtown parking, and recommendations for updating the zoning ordinance regarding parking requirements. So that's where we started from. The process we've gone through is we started with we were here for several days, did observations. We interviewed several business owners, staff, residents. We did a kickoff meeting with the steering committee. We had a steering committee, a couple members of the council were on that. We had planning commission members on that. We had residents and business owners on the steering committee, and they were involved from the very beginning all the way through. We did an open house at Berkley High School to gather input from the community. We had some online, we had over 400 people give their opinion through online input. We did a workshop with the steering committee halfway through to kind of vet ideas out and determine what what made sense and what didn't. We did a 95% review, and we turned in the recommendations both regarding policy and updating your zoning ordinance. So that was our process through. Some of the context, Berkeley is a driving city. That's just that's the way it is right now, and it will probably stay that way for a while. Your public parking, a lot of it is privately owned, meaning people own the parking lots and they invite their customers and their guests to park on those lots. Your corridor health is vital. It was a high priority in the master plan. But the corridors also create difficulty in sharing parking because they're long and linear. You can have a parking lot in one spot that's got some extra spaces 3 blocks away. It doesn't feel very useful. And so that is difficult, whereas if you had more of a circular downtown, you can share a little easier. So those are just some of the things that made a parking plan that we had to consider as we went into this. Some of the issues that were identified through the public input, a lot of people have opinions on the overnight parking prohibition, and they go in all different directions. Same as parkers, parking may be involved in some commercial activity on the corridors, creeping down the residential streets. Again, opinions in all different directions on that. There was some issues with consistency of enforcement. Understandable, it's not the police department's highest priority is not writing parking tickets, so there can be some times with that. And then drivers just finding the parking and really trying to improve the connections across the corridors for pedestrians to make one side of the street more accessible to the others. The property owners did say the site plan approval process was difficult. They'd like to see that a little easier. And the business owners I spoke with are happy to share parking. They'd even be willing to rent some spots from their neighbors if that helped make things work out. So they understood the difficulties. Zoning, we went through the whole zoning. We have recommendations for a whole rewrite on the parking zoning code. I do want to stress that zoning's a great tool, but you can't just set it and forget it and never worry about parking again. It's an ongoing thing. It changes all the time. If you have more growth along the corridors, you will get more parking problems. Parking problems are a good thing. That means you're being successful. People are coming, but it is still a problem that you have to deal with. Rules and policies need to be easily understood and easy to adhere to. And just a reminder to everybody that Berkeley's not downtown Detroit, but it's still a rather urban environment. It's not, you're not out in the country with acres and lots of room. The houses are next to each other and you have city streets. It is an urban environment. There is no such thing as free parking, only in the game of Monopoly. Somebody's paying for that, and I know you know that because you do the budgets every year, and when you need a new parking lot, the numbers get quite high. Just running through what it would take to build a 30-space lot, just a 30-space lot in Berkeley, taking down a couple houses maybe, and paving that, you're talking about $900,000, maybe $1 million or more just to make that happen. It's not an easy task to create new parking in Berkeley. And there's ongoing costs, lights, snow plowing, repairs, maintenance, all sorts of things that go with that, creating parking. So just remember, free parking is only free to the user. It's not free to the person providing it. And that really puts us, where you have to make some decisions. What are your priorities? And in many things in life, you can have 2 out of 3 things, but you can't have all 3. And parking's the same. You can have a lot of it at a low cost, but it's not going to be very close to where you want to be. Think standing in the back end of a Walmart parking lot and you got to walk a quarter of a mile to get to the front doors. You can have plentiful parking that's close, but it's going to be expensive. That's your structured parking or garage, something like that. And then low cost and close proximity, you're just not going to have very many spaces, and that's where Berkeley sits. So you do have to deal with those realities when you start talking about parking. And that's where you get to your supply situation. Anything other than plentiful, unregulated parking, think oceans of asphalt, it has to be managed. If you have plenty and there's never an issue, then you can ignore it and go on with other things. But what that does is overbuilds parking supply. It uses ground for paving, which is generally not considered the best use of ground, especially Berkeley's landlocked. You're not getting any bigger. So how much of it do you really want to pave?
if you're going to be successful with efficient parking, you're somewhere between 80 and 95% occupied all the time. That's the best use of your parking. It gets lower, you're wasting space. If it gets higher, you're ticking people off. So, again, I did this graphic. There is no low-hanging fruit. You do not have any super easy solutions that make the whole thing go away. You could build enough parking so it's not a concern. That's millions of dollars. You could work with private owners to share more of their parking. Those are tough coalitions to hold together, but that's a valuable exercise to go ahead and do that. You could keep things the way they are, but that might limit your growth along your corridors and your commercial development. So, and the one thing I want to stress is regardless of what policies you choose and how you go forward, and you all know this because you serve on this council, you're never going to make everyone happy. So that's just the reality of it. So on to our recommendations after we studied this and worked with the steering committee and really looked at the options. Things are going to change. They've changed in Berkeley for 100 years. They're going to continue to change. Keep working with what you have. Be true to the goals established in the master plan. You worked hard on that. There's a lot of great stuff in there. If I heard it once, I probably heard it 100 times. Don't let us be Royal Oak. And I know that has a lot of connotations in a lot of ways. I know when I go to Royal Oak, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a parking ticket no matter what I do. And so I think what people are looking for is consistency and assuredness of where they put their car is going to be okay. And the reality is money always matters. You know, budgets set priorities, and that's how things work. So zoning code, we did make some recommendations. We did, you have the packet. We did rework the intent section a little bit. We put in some flexibility for the commission. We tried to make things so that it's easier for prospective commercial development to get through the process. Not to sidestep any regulations, but to get through the process without multiple hearings. And we did update your zoning requirements. The fact is driving habits change and Berkeley changes, and so you do have to go through the process, and I know you're going through a bigger process with your overall zoning now too, so this is part of that. Some of the adjustments we made were to take multiple family from a per unit number of parking spaces to a per bedroom. It's a little more targeted towards that type of development. We looked at a lot of restaurants, retail sales, office buildings, and different things, and by and large, we did bring them up to what we would consider a modern code, which requires a little less parking than what you had. Restaurants are actually about the same as what you've had in the past. Figured a little differently. We made some changes to UFA, which is usable floor area, and how all that works. But all the recommendations are there. A little less parking to try to take advantage of. You have a great walkable city. You have transit. You have some options to take advantage of that. So that's the zoning portion of it. We get on to policy, the overnight parking prohibition. We talked a lot about this on the steering committee. We thought a lot about this as we were preparing our recommendations, and we think you should continue with that prohibition. We listened to what people said, and we think it's part of what people want in Berkeley, and it's part of what makes Berkeley nice. We do think getting an overnight permit should be a little easier. Like, you should be able to sign up online. You have friends show up or relatives, and you want to get a permit that day, you should be able to just do it online and be done. And it should be an easy thing. Those programs exist. They're out there. You know, maybe put a limit on it. We said 20 nights per year where you could go ahead, sign up, get a permit without hassle, and it's just done. And then when the police come through at night, they've got a list, an electronic list, and they just know who's supposed to be there and who's not. But this will change. You do need to consider this over time and reevaluate this policy in another 3 years just to see if it still meets the needs of your community. We did recommend allowing overnight parking in the municipal lots. They're off-street. Understand there's some plowing and some maintenance issues that might go with that, but on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, someone's out having a few drinks, leaving their car while they take an Uber somewhere seems to make sense. And that's an easy thing to do in your parking lots. Corridor parking on neighborhood streets. Again, we talked about this a lot. We think you should continue to allow this. The streets are built. The maintenance is there. The cost has been absorbed. To take those parking spots away from people would be, our opinion, not the best use of land. They are there. We do not think you should have any restaurant or business that's running valet should not be able to put their cars on the street, lining up and down the street. You need to talk with the community and understand the benefits of this. It probably saves a few houses. It saves a few $1 million to allow this type of parking. And combined with the overnight prohibition, no one leaves their car there for 2, 3, 4, 5 days on end. You know, you park there and then you got to move your car. And we would say encourage the businesses to have their employees park in their lot so that someone's not there 8 or 10 hours in front of the house. But okay, they're there for an hour and a half while they're grabbing dinner or something. Again, this policy needs to be reviewed every 3, 4 years to make sure it still fits with what Berkley is and how it's working. Free parking, we think it should remain free. Paid parking has a couple goals. It raises money and it modifies behavior. If you know you've got to pay, you think about, hey, should we drive together? Or should we do something? Should we walk? Should we do something different? So you're losing a tool that would allow you to modify behavior a little bit when you remain with free parking, but it seems to be an essence of who Berkley is and what they want to be. And so I think staying with free parking is a good thing. Again, recognize the downsides. That revenue is not there to build more parking lots or to maintain the ones you have. That has to come out of the operating budget of the city, and you lose some of those tools. But I do believe it is what the city wants, and I think it's workable. I think you can work with that. One of the things we came across is it's hard to understand who really owns parking. I'm sure all of you, probably everyone sitting up here, has taken a parking complaint sometime in the last year or so. And everybody has a job to do in this, and I don't want to say that some departments aren't doing their job. I think everybody's doing their job. It's just that it goes across all places, and what we really see is there's not really leadership. No one's really in charge of parking and can help solve a problem. Everybody, oh, we have a problem. What are we supposed to do? So, you know, I really believe you should put a department to herd the cats, really. All those departments that have roles, they can keep their roles, but someone needs to kind of help them push it all in the right direction. Some of the great things that happen with that is you get consistent policy. The business owners know who to call to solve a problem. And also someone's looking at the future and say, what do we need to do next? What's 2 years out? How do we think about this? And without leadership, you really don't get those opportunities to bring those new things in. They kind of have to come out of left field. Developing metrics to measure whether you're being successful. I do recommend that you count all the cars on street and in your municipal lots quarterly, 4 times a year, so you really know where you stand and what's going on. And so without someone in charge, those things don't happen. So that's why I say leadership. Funding, I think you sit here every year and you do the budget and you go, oh, we can't afford to do that. I say start a parking fund that you'll keep your hands out of and that you'll be able to put money in. There's opportunities through TIF, potentially special assessments, general fund budgeting, grants from, if you have a parking department, then you can take grants from the state or the federal government. If you do not, you can't. So there's different things, but I think an all of the above approach to starting to fund that so that when you identify we need to do something in this part of town, then you have the funds or at least the beginning of funds and a plan to help do that. Because reacting or responding each time individually is difficult. So just to sum things up, we gave you zoning code recommendations for parking, define responsibility, conduct those parking occupancy counts on a regular basis so you know where you stand. Data is making decisions without data is just your thumb in the air. Let's make decisions based on data. Add some public parking supply where needed. I say don't follow a business, but when a part of town gets a little busier, let's see if we can put a municipal lot there. Would like to see you brand the public parking. Municipal parking on a sign doesn't say as much as the big green P or whatever color, but the P means something to people. They go, hey, I can park there, I'm allowed, that's okay. Consistent enforcement, that means working with the police. Maybe that means some civilian enforcement, some other opportunities to do that. And you have to review your policies, so when things change, you're ready to adjust those change. And communicate with your community, the whys of what's going on. That's another thing of having someone in leadership, is they can take the opportunity to communicate with the community about what's going on. And you have a 2012 alternate transportation plan that probably at some point you want to look at updating that to keep those options moving forward. And again, you got to keep it going. You got to plan, do, check, and act, and continually assess what's going on to make sure you're getting out of the parking situation what you want. And that's where I'm at. Questions? Did the council have any questions?
Questions from council? Councilmember Bland.
Not a question, but just more of commentary. I had the opportunity to attend the public session at the high school. Thought it was really well run, very interactive, gave everyone an opportunity to really, give their 2 cents about all the different aspects which you've presented here. So really appreciate that you guys took that effort to do that, and all of the online stuff as well. It really gave people multiple ways to get involved in this.
Thank you. And we did an interesting thing with the online, is you were able to put a pin down on a map and leave a comment, and Kristen has all 411 of those with the map. So if anybody wants to see them, they're all there.
I have a question, and maybe this is more for Kristen. Is there a way to utilize BSNA to do these online applications for the overnight parking? Or would that be a whole separate program to do something like that?
So I don't believe BSNA could do that.
Okay.
But I know, John, that you've mentioned online programs, most notably GIS. That would be beneficial with that. I think that ArcMap has a module, a parking module you were explaining, that helps with parking counts.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as were you talking about the online permit?
Application for overnight parking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. There are programs out there that would probably still, they kind of piggyback on enforcement programs. The ticket's a ticket. And so I think through the police department and through what they're using for their online programs, there's probably an opportunity to maybe add a module or figure out if they can do that through their existing software. Hopefully it wouldn't be a big upgrade, just an opportunity to add.
That would make the most sense, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I talked to Chief Kane about this already, and he was very interested in exploring something like that.
Great. Good to know.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Lieutenant Kopernik of our patrol division has already been tasked with trying to find out what some of the peer communities are doing and look at some various platforms that make it easier for the officers in the street to be able to see pretty quickly who is in compliance and who isn't.
Thank you. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah, and mine were more comments instead of questions, and I wanted to thank the consultants and staff and all the volunteers on the committee that help put things together. Just wanted to emphasize, these are recommendations tonight. We're not taking action on them. They aren't things that are set in stone that we're definitely going to go into. The vast majority of it, I agree with it. One that gives me heartburn, for example, is moving the multifamily residential requirement down as low as recommended, but that's a discussion we need to have and talk with the community and gather data about. But again, these are just recommendations. The normal zoning process will, zoning ordinance process will go through. The community will have a chance to, provide their input. And so this isn't like a done deal and for sure where we're going, but it gives us a direction to start aiming.
Thank you. Any public comment on this agenda item? Come to the microphone, please. And same deal. Name, city of residence, direct your comments to the chair.
Yes, thank you. Laura Boos, Beverly Boulevard, Berkeley resident. Thank you for your presentation. I am also interested in parking, but I would also like to suggest that residents be able to phone in. I, for one, don't want an app on my phone that I would only use once a year. And why can't we just call public safety and say, and then I would write down the name of the person who approved it, because apps if I install an app on my phone, it gives that app access to all the data on my phone, and I don't want to do that. So maybe just phoning it in would be a lot simpler and cheaper.
Thank you.
Good evening, Charlene Condrat, Beverly Boulevard, resident here since 1980, Berkeley School District employee for 25 years, now retired. One of the reasons my husband and I moved away from Royal Oak to Berkeley was the prohibition of the 2 to 6 overnight parking. Having lived in Berkeley in the residential area, we just found a lot of cars on the street all the time. So it was refreshing to come to Berkeley. And as I said, we've been here since 1980. And I was one of those people with the very strong opinion of keeping that 2 to 6 time closed up in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Okay, I'm going to close public comment on this item. Mr. Forrester, Ms. Kapelansky, anyone who worked on this, city departments, residents who inputted, I want to thank you for such a robust presentation and giving us some recommendations that we can then ponder and have more robust conversations on. So thank you for that. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M5323.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 3 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M5423, matter of approving the special land use for the occupation of 2790 Coolidge Highway to be used as a law office in the downtown district on the east side of Coolidge Highway, south of Franklin Road, requested by applicant Bradley DeVries on behalf of Pinch Law.
Is there a motion to approve M5423?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Patterson
Support.
with support from Councilmember Dooley. Mr. Baumgarten.
Madam Mayor, I'll defer to the
Ms.
Community Development
Kapelansky.
Director.
Thank you. Good evening once again. Tonight I have before you an application for special land use approval. This is in the downtown district. If you're familiar with the building, it's the former Smith Counseling Center. Pinch Law has purchased this building and they would like to occupy it as an office use for the firm. This is an office use on the first floor in the downtown district, and that's why it's requiring special land use approval. This is a one-story building, just so that everyone is aware. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on the special land use request on July 25th and recommended approval of that. They also at that time approved the site plan. There's some exterior renovations proposed for the building as well, mostly facade changes that I provided for you in the packet. The council should consider the standards in section 138-653 when deciding whether or not to approve that special land use request. Brad DeVries, the applicant, is here, and then Rachel Pinch of Pinch Law is here as well if you have any questions for them.
Great, thank you so much. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any of the agents, applicants connected to this business, would you like to talk to us?
Good evening, Council. My name is Rachel Pinch, and I'm the applicant and owner of this building. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm an attorney. I specialize in Social Security disability law, which means I help individuals who cannot work because of either mental or physical health navigate the process of applying for and receiving disability benefits. So my goal with this building is to be a good steward of the building, take care of the property, and to be a good neighbor in terms of connecting with the local business owners as well as community members. Thank you.
Thank you. Comment from council, questions? Councilmember Hennan.
Yeah. The reason these come before us is because we want to try and avoid just becoming all offices, and so it becomes a special land use. But I think in this case, it's a reasonable use for a building currently vacant, and it meets all the criteria that we need to find, and it has a planning commission recommendation. So because of those facts, I'll be voting yes.
Okay, thank you.
As the Planning Commission liaison, they seemed excited to have a project to help renovate our downtown area, so they were excited to make this recommendation and to welcome a new business. So
great.
From them.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Mitchell, will you please call the roll on M5423? Sorry, M5423.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, will you please read item number 4 on tonight's agenda?
Motion number M5523, matter of awarding a one-year contract for janitorial services to LGC Global Energy FM LLC, 7310 Woodward Avenue, Detroit, Michigan, in the amount of $79,440.
Is there a motion to approve M5523?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Valani,
Support.
with support from Mayor Pro Tem Gavin. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has gone through the bidding process. We were exercised and early out with a former contract for our previous janitorial service, working our way out, exiting that now. But we did go through an extensive process that Mr. Brown put together, including building walkthroughs, really emphasizing what our problem areas have been in the past, making sure that each of the prospective contractors were able to get their questions answered, physically lay eyes on the businesses or the various buildings of the city. Really, really thorough process, again, culminating in a closed bid opening that eventually brought us to this point with this recommendation. And Facilities Manager Brown is available to answer every single difficult question you have.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, is there anything you'd like to add to the narrative from?
Yeah, just as Mr. Baumgarten said, we did have a very extensive process. We ended up with 10 bids total, and after reviewing the bids, references, and doing some external research of my own, I've come to the recommendation that we award a contract to LGC Global. They're not the lowest bid on this tabulation, but like I was saying, after doing some research and checking with references, I felt they fit the city's needs the best, and are still going to be saving us substantially yearly from what we're paying now, and with the hopes of much better service.
Great, great. Thank you for looking into that so thoroughly. Any public comment on this agenda item? Discussion from council? Councilmember Hennan.
I'll just mention that we're often accused of not looking at ways to save costs, but we exercised an early out in an existing contract in order to get what we hope is better service at a reduced cost. So, you know, we and staff don't just sit on our hands. You know, we are actively looking for ways to save the city money. So, and appreciate your efforts in that as well.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Gavin?
Thank you, Your Honor. And just to build off that, just for so the public knows that it was the second lowest out of 10 bids. Correct?
Let me just double check here. I believe so, yes. Or it may have been third within a couple $100. Yeah.
So.
And that bid tab is in the packet. They're able to see that. Yep. I do have the Chief Operating Officer from LGC here tonight. Tushar Patel is right here if you have any questions for him as well. He's available.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Patel? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell, will you please call the roll on M5523?
Valani,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, will you please read item number 5 on tonight's regular agenda?
Motion number M5623, matter of approving the continuing partnership with DG Energy Company LLC, 42690 Woodward Avenue, Suite 360, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, 48304, to provide and install one EV charger at Oxford Park at a cost not to exceed $33,335. Funds for this expenditure will come from account 101-265-971-150.
Is there a motion to approve M5623?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin.
Support.
With support from Councilmember Valani. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you recall, this is a postponed item from the previous meeting. Council had asked staff to look to see if there were any discounts that we could get, what the potential savings of potentially selling the purchased EV charging station would be, and then also see if there are any potential discounts attributed to incorrect installation of the work that had been done so far. Both myself and Mr. Brown mostly Mr. Brown, went through and tried to get those answers for you. And as it turns out, it looks like we're potentially, we still in the potential realm, could get maybe a 50% reduction in the cost of the EV charger, which is only about what, $3,500 or so. And then it looks like,
roughly.
Yeah, and then the whole of the invoice for the labor that performed so far is owed. And then the work, should it be approved this evening, to continue and correct the incorrect installation would be no charge to the city. So as it stands now, it would be about $19,000 that is owed to the vendor. This is fully attributed to the previous fiscal year. And so there would be no additional cost in the current budget year, which started after the 1st of July. So bringing this back with some of the questions answered.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to add?
No, not really, actually. And that kind of summarizes everything there for me. But I've been in contact with DG Energy since this process unfolded. They are ready and willing, if approved, to get the station properly installed on my word. So whenever, if it's approved tonight, they'll be put on notice tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Any public comment on this agenda item? Mr. Hunter? And just a reminder, direct your comments to the chair. Council won't engage you in discussion. We'll get back to you if need be.
Thank you, Mayor. Joshua Hunter, Berkley. Before the EV was, the incorrect installation was removed, I walked by it. I noticed the cords were hanging over the sidewalk, and I'm concerned that, from what I understand, where the correct installation would be between the curb and the sidewalk. And although the unit is less than that width, I'm concerned the cords would be hanging over and obstructing the sidewalk. This is a particularly high traffic area, especially when there's softball games and there's kids riding their bikes and going through. So, all the other issues aside, I'm concerned with the location of this particular installation. So I'd like to understand how that would work and how the cords would obstruct or not obstruct the sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion from council. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah, I've gone by there and viewed, looking at, in the eye of the handicap parking spot there, and obstructions as well, and I'm comfortable that it'll be okay in the correct location, and we're at the point where this is a sunk cost. It's I think the most prudent thing is to approve and to start generating revenue from it to start recouping those costs.
Thank you.
I just have one. Do we have an estimate of how much this would produce revenue?
I just pulled the report last week of what the library has produced since the middle of May, and it's north of the $650 mark. I would expect not as much because there's only going to be 2 charging stations there, 1 unit, but optimistic that it would generate a decent amount of revenue.
Thank you.
Yep.
Madam Mayor, we budgeted for about $5,000 in revenue on the library station, and so half the stations were probably we forecast about half the revenue for that, so we're about $2,500.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from council? Okay. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M5623.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennon,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Villani,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 6 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number N5723, motion to approve the purchase of Google Workspace in the amount of $25,560.60 from account 101-228-760-000.
Is there a motion to approve M5723?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Hennon
Support.
with support from Councilmember Dooley. Mr. Baumgarten.
To Councilmember Hennon's earlier point, we are always looking for cost savings, and Chief Innovation Officer Liska has helped us find some here, as detailed in the memo in your packet.
Mr. Liska.
Good evening. I'm coming to you with a quote in front of you regarding a one-year subscription for Google Workspace. Google Workspace is the mail, calendar, word processing spreadsheet platform that the city has been using for about a decade now. We're on an older monthly plan. Google reorganized and has direct salespeople. It's not just you sign up for a subscription. Speaking with various sales reps and engineers, they've come up with a solution for a one-year subscription that would meet all our current needs and give us a savings of roughly about 40%. So.
Oh, good. Good to know. Any public comment, excuse me, on this agenda item? Mr. Terrell.
Charles Terrell from Berkeley. Just in terms of terminology on the resolution, it says you motion to approve the purchase of Google Workspace. You're not purchasing Google Workspace. You're signing up for a subscription, or you're getting a license for Google Workspace. You're not purchasing it. So you need to change the terminology in this resolution in order to make it accurate with what's actually being planned to do.
Thank you. Any discussion from council? Councilmember Valani.
Yes. Thank you for your efforts to find some cost savings. I know, especially in light of the past year, that is definitely appreciated. Do you have any kind of inkling or sense what would happen year two? Like, would we anticipate that we would receive similar rates? Is this kind of like an introductory rate, just so we have that kind of mindset?
No, they offered us an introductory monthly rate, and it was roughly about 15%. This was probably the most, obviously, cost-effective. Mm-hmm. We're going to be looking at, as far as active users, that's where the bulk of the cost is, talking to the different departments, because this covers not only employees, but part-time employees, summer camp, as far as the tablets they use, and kind of see if they really need it and hopefully scale back on that. I'm hoping they give us the same rates. 40%, cost savings is quite a bit of money. So I'm hoping next year that if we stick on a yearly basis. I wanted to start with this. The main issue is if we lock into a 3-year term, we have to pay for the active users whether we use them or not. So I wanted to reevaluate that after a year, because this is a new program for everybody. Just to get the quote, it took about 3 months of discussion and hurry up and waiting to get this. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah, and I'll mention we've discussed another cost-saving avenue we're looking at is some of the accounts they're a lesser rate, but they're archival, and looking at a way to move off of that where we don't pay, but are still able to meet our FOIA obligations.
Okay, well, thank you
very
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work on this.
Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M5223. 57, geez, sorry about that.
Gavin?
Yes.
Hennon?
Yes.
Patterson?
Yes.
Valani?
Yes.
Dooley?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes. M5723 has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 7 on tonight's regular agenda.
Ordinance number 0923, matter of considering the second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, to add Article 5, Retail Pet Store Sales, in Chapter 2, Animals of the Berkley City Code, to prohibit retail pet stores in the city from selling dogs, cats, or rabbits.
Is there a motion to approve O0923?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Hennon,
Support.
with support from Mayor Pro Tem Gavin. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the motion indicates, it's the second reading. We typically put second readings into the consent agenda, but there were some outstanding questions left over from the previous meeting. So we want to be able to note those and draw your attention to those in the current draft. One of the things I want to point out, as Councilmember Hennon noted, in conversation there was a discussion about weekly versus monthly paperwork obligation on any existing businesses. We decided internally to propose to you a weekly obligation. although the draft that was advertised and is in the packet today does indicate monthly. So I want to draw your attention to that requested change to the text. And also there's a question regarding the duration of the lease in conversation, and I want to note that Mr. Stern was able to find out some of that information in conversation with the PuppyGram's attorney. Other than that, it is presented for you this evening.
Thank you. Before we move forward on this, I just want to, for council's benefit, I've had several conversations with our city attorney since the last reading of this ordinance, and more recently over the past few days. So, Mr. Stern, would you please share with council and everyone here what you've advised?
Certainly. I would probably use the word multiple conversations rather than several.
Yes, multiple.
Since the last council meeting,
Yes.
About a variety of topics, but especially over the last week and even the last several days, including up till about 2 hours ago, discussions about the pet store ordinance. And just to share with council the nature of those conversations and what the takeaway on it was. We spoke about a number of aspects, some of which Mr. Baumgarten just referred to. There have been several changes, tweaks, minor ones or whatever, to the ordinance since the council last saw it. Probably the most notable of which is we did change in the existing retail pet stores exception. I think the last version of the ordinance you saw was a year. We talked about moving that to 2 years, but there's been a number of changes in the reporting requirements, so we talked about that. We talked about input, that feedback, even opposition that's been received from the pet store operator and attorney. It's been a long process. It would have been preferable to get that feedback earlier in the process, but we got it, and we need to take everything into consideration, into account. I've spoke with the mayor about liabilities, insurance, the potential for legal challenge, which, again, based on the feedback I just referred to, probably on our dial went from possible to highly probable, and a number of different things. So where am I going with this? What's the takeaway on this? We started out with an ordinance where our purpose and goals were very laudable, and still are. There's probably nobody in this room that supports or favors the inhumane treatment of dogs and cats or other animals, inhumane breeding practices. And this council, in a very progressive move, decided we're not going to wait for the feds, we're not going to wait for the state, we're going to do our small part as the city of Berkeley, what we can do to protect animal rights and to combat puppy mills and do what we can to reduce the overabundance of strays and unhealthy animals and improperly bred animals, unwanted animals. And we've come up with this ordinance. The ordinance has two parts. The first part of the ordinance goes a long way in accomplishing the purpose and goals that I just spoke about. The second part of the ordinance is the more troublesome part. The first part will prevent and prohibit any future dog and cat retail sellers from locating in the city. The second part is what do we do with existing businesses, and the reality is we have one existing business, and we all know who it is, and I believe they have representatives here tonight, or a representative anyway, that you'll likely hear from. What do we do about that? We bounced all over the place with what to do about that, ranging from immediately outlawing them to indefinitely grandfathering them in to 6 months, to 1 year, to our latest iteration, 2 years. What we've been trying to do is find a proper balance between achieving our, as I said, our laudable purposes, goals, and objectives, but at the same time recognizing we need to balance the legal rights of the business as well. Legal rights, civil rights, recognition of the investment that they've made, contractual commitments, lease commitments, and so on that they may have made. How do we reach that balance? We've been trying to get there. I'm not sure we're quite there yet, and I say that because I'm sure the representative of the operator will tell us that we're nowhere near there. But that be as it may, it is before you tonight for second reading. You have, as I see it, 2 options, maybe 3 options. One is to vote the ordinance up, the one you approve for second reading as modified, vote it up, vote it down, or a third option is to maybe tap the brakes a little bit. And I know we've been at this for months. Probably, I think it goes back to March. We'd all like to see this come to an end. We'd all like to reach the finish line. I'm also recognizing there really is no urgency to this other than whatever self-imposed urgency we put on it. I'm suggesting maybe just tap the brakes a little bit to take into account what I've just told you, some of the information we've received, in the last few days, some of the feedback we've gotten from the property owner, and is there another way to do this where we can see the finish line and eliminate the existing store, or the existing, I shouldn't say the existing store, but the existing sale of dogs and cats, but do it in a way where we are also fully respecting the property rights and hopefully avoiding legal challenge. Not because we're afraid of legal challenge, but because it's a responsible thing to do, which is, to the extent we have an opportunity to minimize or eliminate our risk, eliminate the expenses. Well, the only thing guaranteed in litigation is it's going to be expensive. Nothing else, outcomes and so on, are not guaranteed. Just to tap the brakes a little bit to see if there is just another way to do this. And kind of what I'm suggesting is opposed, or throwing out, is opposed to setting a date certain to amortize the sale of dogs and cats out of business, but instead to perhaps tie it to the business owner's current lease term, which, as I understand it, from what I saw in the letter that we received from the attorney, is 5 years, thereabouts. I'm just throwing that out to you as a third option. We'll move forward on this. We have admirable goals and objectives. I'm just want to make sure that the council continues to be mindful that this is important to do what we're going to do, but it's also important to the extent, in the face of legal challenges that are avoidable, that's usually a good thing to avoid them, if it's feasible, at least until we've fully exhausted that exploration of what is feasible and what isn't. Anyway, I'm rambling on here, but that's in sum what I've discussed with the mayor over the last week or so.
Thank you, Mr. Sterin. I'm going to open this up to public comments. You have 3 minutes to speak on this agenda item. Direct your comments to the chair. State your name and city of residence when you come to the microphone. Is there an agent or operator here connected to the affected business that would like to address council?
Yes. Mayor, I'm the attorney for
Please
the
come to the
operator.
microphone.
The applicant, or the petitioner, the owner, is also here. She would like to
Great.
speak also.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Molly Handy. I'm Kokomo, Indiana. I'm the wife of Miles Handy, which I think some of you have spoken to. And really, I wanted to come tonight to just say, and thank you for pointing out that there's still a lot of discussion to be had. And it's quite fitting that the Historical Commission was here today because my family has a long history. I actually brought with me, my grandpa, he wrote a book about his time. He was the head custodian at the Berkley schools when they were opening the new junior high school. When he got home from the Korean War, they bought their first 2 houses in Berkley. My mom went to elementary school in Berkley, and he writes about how joyful and rewarding it was to see Berkley community developing. This was in the 50s. And so when we decided to open in Berkley, I felt like things were coming full circle. And then I didn't feel welcomed, I'll say that, but I just feel that we have been ready and willing and waiting to speak or have anybody reach out to us and get our input or to meet us, find out who we are, what we do, what we're all about. And I just, it's been disappointing because I just don't feel that has what we found to be the case here. So we are still ready and willing to have an open discussion. I would love for you guys to know more about us, to know more about what we do. Like you said, not one of us here wants to see dogs coming from inhumane conditions, and I, for one, am a huge dog lover and would take everyone home with me if I can, and I have taken several home with me, to be honest. But it's a pride thing, and what we do is being able to not only love on the puppies that are in our stores, that are in our care, but also to provide them to, it's a warm feeling when you see a happy family going home with a puppy. My mom recently came down, she's retired now, got a puppy from us, and I talked to her today, and she's, so happy and thrilled. So I know there are a lot of opinions on this subject, but I would just be nice to have ours heard as well. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Handy.
Good evening, Mayor Dean. Tom Callis. I'm the attorney for Puppy Graham. My address is 31350, and that's Telegraph Road in Bingham Farms. I'm here this evening. You heard earlier some letters that were read into the record, specifically from employees of Puppy Graham, the veterinarian who has seen many of the puppies, confirming how they're well taken care of, they're vaccinated, no congenital defects, no health issues. This is a situation where, we did submit a letter stating our legal position on Friday. It was emailed to everyone and I believe put in the packet for this evening. But aside from our legal position, what we're really here to accomplish is to open up the dialogue and have some perhaps reconsideration of that one provision that Mr. Sterin indicated regarding the sunset date of July 1, 2025. Now, by way of summary, we are a pet service store selling puppies, cats, but predominantly puppies. 85 to 90% of the business is related to selling puppies. If you've ever been in the store, you can see that there's been a significant monetary investment in the store. These puppies are well taken care of. They're fed, there's playtime. You can see their kennels, There's areas for them to play, for them to run around. There's been many customers, both within Berkley and outside of Berkley, who have gone to the store, purchased puppies. Very happy, very excited. The store does provide a service to the local community and to some outlying areas for those who want to buy a puppy and who don't want to go, find a breeder somewhere or travel distance to do that. They have a store right here in Berkley that serves a purpose, serves them, and really is a legitimate and very good business. So historically what happened is my client came into town, as Mrs. Handy indicated. She has deep roots in Berkley. They wanted to be in Berkley. It's a great community. The location on Woodward is great. They went into a building. They feel that they brought some life into that building with their store. It's very well laid out. Significant investment of over $400,000 was put into that building for lease expenses, build out, tenant improvements, inventory, professional fees, review fees, inspection fees, and so on. They came in here with a permitted use. They went through the process of the city. They did everything right. They had everything approved. Everything was inspected. They got the green light. They received a business license and an occupancy certificate for the business in March of 2023. They're in business. They're ready to go. They do have a lease that's in place. I believe the initial term is 5 years, but there's also 3 5-year option periods to that lease. Now, if we are prevented from selling puppies as of July 1, 2025, and even before that, because the word will get out, we're going to have difficulty bringing in, approved, USDA approved, puppies, inventory, because if there's a sunset date 2 years from now or less than 2 years from now, it's going to lead to the demise of this business. Come July 1st, 2025, without the ability to sell puppies, there's no revenue. My client cannot meet expenses. There's financing in place for these improvements. There's a written lease agreement, a contractual agreement. They will not be able to pay the rent. They will be sued. They will be sued by their finance. You're looking at litigation that my client will be in through no choice of their own. So what we are asking, and I'm here, I know Mr. Starren. I've dealt with him for over 30 years on other matters. We've gotten along through the years. He's very, very good attorney, very reasonable. I'd like to think I'm very reasonable also. And I think that there's a happy medium here that can be met with respect to that sunset provision to not only accommodate my client's existing business, which, as you know, is very highly regulated by the state, and now you've got your ordinance, to regulate it also, but they have to be allowed to continue to operate as long as that lease allows them to, or if they decide to terminate the business for whatever reason. So, we would, like for an opportunity and maybe, tap the brakes a little bit on this proposal or this proposed ordinance and approval, and maybe sit down with us where we can come up with some type of reasonable provision that will avoid litigation, because my client will have no choice but to litigate because their business will basically be shut down, and they'll be involved in lawsuits that they have no control over because they won't be able to pay their lease and they've got financing in place. So, the business has to continue. We'd love every consideration that can be given to us to be allowed to continue that business, and I believe there was a letter from your city manager back in February 24, 2023. It was a press release, and I did submit it the other day to be part of the record. And there's been some malicious rumors out there about this being a puppy mill. That's the furthest thing from the truth. My clients have been involved with animals and puppies and pets for over 40 years. You heard the letters from the people that work there, how well taken care of these puppies are. That's the last thing that they would entertain is any type of puppy mill or any type of animal abuse. In fact, the letter or the press release letter from February 2023 indicates that, your own city animal control officer responded to these allegations, which again are unfounded, malicious, not true, and they initiated multiple visits to the store to inspect the condition. During his inspections, he found the dogs within the store are well cared for and the on-site staff to be cooperative. So any rumors, any malicious statements about this being a puppy mill are simply unfounded and untrue. This is a great business. It's a benefit to the city of Berkeley. It's in a great location. I drove by it several times, went in it. It's a beautiful site, a beautiful layout, and provides an opportunity for people to actually come to a site and buy a puppy, that's well taken care of, healthy, vaccinated. So with that in mind, again, I would ask you to please reconsider approval of that provision, and perhaps we can table it and sit down and figure out some type of provision or some type of language relative to a sunset date that will work for everyone. Thank you for your time, and again, we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Callis. Any other public comment?
Hi, Carla Osborne, Berkeley resident. So I want to start off with a couple of things. As far as outside influencers coming in, what was brought to you was concerns by the citizens, the people who voted you into your seats. You guys did not go out of your way to create an ordinance to push a business out. You are doing what we elected you to do. So we'll start with that. This ordinance is not like an attack on small businesses. It's to ban the brick and mortar pet sales. And this is being supported across the country. We've seen it in many states. There are 6 states currently. We've listed these many times that there are complete statewide bans in Illinois, New York, Maryland, Maine, Washington, and California. And many local bans here within the state of Michigan and outside the state of Michigan, including a new ban that is being voted on in Louisville, Kentucky, where the other Puppy Grand store is located. This is on their current city council agenda right now, and their ban is even more than what ours is. So this isn't just us picking on anybody. You're doing what the constituents are asking of you, and this is being done across the country. We're hoping one day it'll be at the federal level, but we're not there. So in the meantime, we're going to do it at the local level. We're going to take our steps to get up to where we have to. This ordinance here mimics the ordinance that is being presented in the State House, and that would be House Bill 4838, same end date, sunset date of when the sales of pets has to stop. Nobody's saying that this business has to completely shut down. This part of their business is the part that we have the problems with. He still sells pet supplies, can continue to sell pet supplies. There's many other things that he can change his business plan or whatever he decides to do, but nobody's telling him that he has to completely close up shop and leave. I think that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla.
Hi. Courtney Wooten, Berkeley resident. I'm kind of shocked by some of the things I've heard here this evening. And in my 3 minutes, I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I didn't intend to talk about. Sense of urgency. One of the things Steve Baker said last month was, every single day matters. We've been working on this for 8 months. Each one of you has been working on this for 8 months. Citizens have been contacting each of you for 8 months, dedicating hours of our time to research, legality, and what is appropriate. And now all of a sudden we get, hold on, let's talk. We've asked the existing business on multiple occasions to be transparent. Had that happened right at the beginning, we wouldn't be here. Transparency in this business is all we're asking for the next 2 years. That transparency will actually enable the existing business to be more successful. It will build trust in their community. It will build trust in their customers. If I own a small business, it's my responsibility to be transparent. And if I am operating legally and humanely, I should have no qualms in doing so. There's a little bit of a red herring going on here. What's happening is we're asking our community to have humane animal sales. There's some conflating going on. This is nothing about closing down a business. Otherwise, the Michigan Director of the Humane Society of the United States would not have brought forth all the statistics last month that show all the nationwide statistics of profitable businesses that don't sell animals but are in the retail industry for them. We wouldn't have national chains, local chains. Look at Premier Pet Supply. They're opening up new stores all the time. This has nothing to do. The assumption made earlier by the pet store's attorney was that no puppies equals no revenue. That's just straight up not true and not what we're doing here. As a business owner, myself, I started researching. According to the ASPCA, there are over 300 US cities and counties that have passed retail pet sale bans. I looked at them by city. 3 of them had more than a 2-year ban, or had a two-year transition process. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
Don Dreyer, Berkeley. First, I'd like to thank the city clerk for reading my comments. I think she's to be commended. But I'm part of the no group. I have a question for the mayor. Have you or any of the council met with the owner or been to the store that's in question?
Council members won't engage in discussion.
Okay,
Mr. Dyer.
that was a question too. Okay, in that case, I'm for the no. I think you should, at the very beginning, at least looked into it, or looked into the store itself. If you had, from what I read in the Woodward talk, that no one from the council had visited the store. If it's true, fine. But I think you should have done that first, and you should have looked into the business itself. I think you're opening the city to yet another needless lawsuit for whatever reason. That's it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lily Osborne, Berkeley resident. Some of you may know me as Carla's daughter. I'm someone who has always been interested in the care of animals. I remember being a little girl always wanting to be a vet, even though that may not be the case now. I still have their best interests at heart and have spent time with my mother and Courtney and everyone involved protesting and doing our research. And I know many of you have taken part of that, and I thank you for that. And I know it kind of hurts to hear people say, pump the brakes, and maybe it's not this bad, or come in the store, it looks nice in there. Maybe the store does look nice, but let's think about the physical effects, or even the mental effects. I mean, many puppies who are brick and mortared are pulled away from their families, their mothers, really quickly. Maybe just bordering the line where it's okay to get rid of them from their parents, or even the mental effects of the parents who go through all these things. I know many of you have heard the research behind all of this, and I really want you to consider, pumping the brakes maybe isn't a good idea. The urgency, as Courtney and Baker said, is every day that counts. And every day does count, especially when it comes to those who need to be advocated for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Lauren Delega, Franklin, Michigan. Good evening. I just obviously want to take a minute just to thank you guys for the months and months of research and consideration that went into this humane pet store ordinance. I don't think I necessarily need to present anything new tonight. We've all, from the community advocates in the area, have, supplied the council with as much information as we possibly could to support this ordinance. It's thorough, it's well thought out, and it's overwhelmingly supported by members of the community. I'm sure you've received lots of positive emails and phone calls from other residents that obviously aren't here tonight, but that support it. A vote yes tonight is not only a step to protect these animals, both the ones in the store, and let's not forget the ones in the mills, the moms, the discarded dogs, but it's also protection on the health and financial safety of Berkley and its surrounding residents as well. So I do hope that, we don't waste any more time. I hope that we can pass this today, and I hope this encourages other surrounding cities to also adopt the similar ordinance as we await a statewide ban to be passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Thad Dickinson, and I'm a Berkeley resident. I'm also a volunteer for the Humane Society of the United States. I am not an outside influencer. Every day, every morning, Monday through Sunday, I go feed a feral cat. Because it doesn't want me around, I have to walk around, so you'll see me walking around. I'm a distance runner. 5 out of 7 days a week, I'm running up and down and around Berkeley. I go to the restaurants. I buy at the bookstore. I volunteer 5 out of 6 elections as an election inspector. So I am part of the community, part of the community. But I'm also an animal shelter volunteer for the past 13 years. And I live and breathe the motto, adopt, don't shop. The cruelties, puppy mills, and the welfare issues those puppies face getting to and living in retail pet stores are real and well documented. And I don't think Berkeley should be a part of that. I'd rather our local pet stores continue supporting the adoption of homeless cats and dogs, and I hope that you will approve the ordinance prohibiting pet stores from selling dogs, cats, and rabbits in Berkeley. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Blake Goodman, Lansing, Michigan. And I have the pleasure of serving as the Michigan State Director for Humane Society of the United States. And I have to say that I don't know that I'm going to say anything better or more than your community members have already told you over the last 8 months and here tonight. But what I will tell you is this, is that this is an evening of choices. And there's a few choices that people in this room, not only you guys, will have to make tonight and over the next coming weeks and months. One of those choices is to pass this ordinance, which I unequivocally encourage you to do tonight in its current format. Its current format being one that we feel is hugely defensible for this city. And how do we know that? Is because not a single city ordinance across this country has been overturned by a single judge at any level. Not a single one. You have the law on your side, case law on your side across this country. We also know that this ordinance is not going to prevent this business from continuing to function, to continuing to serve residents for food, services, grooming, toys, anything else. It's about business models and not about businesses. It's also about the choice of this business to threaten you with litigation, which is a choice. They're going to choose to do that, and their lawyer is telling you that they're forced into it by your actions, but they're not, because you're not closing them. You're telling them that this part of their business does not belong in our city because that's what our residents are asking us to do. A hugely defensible position across this country and in this state. You're joining many other cities here and hopefully the whole state in doing this. And I encourage you, with this phase-in that you're proposing, a 2-year phase-in, which is much more generous than even the Louisville City Council, which is the other one in question for this business, is proposing. Let me be clear. Their threats to you should not influence whether or not you decide on this tonight. Because your position, if you pass this ordinance, is defensible, and it's what your citizens, your residents are asking for. We encourage you at the Humane Society of the United States to pass this ordinance, to protect animals, and to do this for them and for your residents. If they sue you, as with many other ordinances, it will not matter. You will win. Your ordinance is sound, and I encourage you to pass it. And I thank you for this time tonight, and I hope that you will.
Thank you.
And I hope that you will choose to pass the ordinance as it exists in your packet.
Thank you.
Charles Terrell, Berkeley. I too come down on the no part of this in regards to the part of the ordinance that does not grant the owner, the current business, an unlimited grandfathering in. We know that this is going to lead to litigation. In this time when there's no money, don't spend money on things that can't be litigated. Don't spend money on litigation just to spend money on litigation. We know it's going to happen. Carve that part out. Live with the win that you had. I hear terms like transparency. In other meetings, they've talked about he doesn't produce his papers. That is not in the jurisdiction of Berkeley as a city, of Berkeley as residents. Pet stores are regulated, licensed, inspected by the Michigan State Department of Agriculture. If you want anything, if you want his papers, you want to know the origins of his animals, FOIA the State Department of Agriculture. They're the ones, not the city. It's not incumbent on you. It's not incumbent on city staff to be involved in these things. So carve that piece out, let it go. If you're making the choice that you want to not have any more pet stores besides this one, that's a different animal, and we can go forward with that one. But please don't encourage another lawsuit. We don't need it. Mr. Starren has brought up some great points as to why we want to back down on, not back down, but back off on this at this time. There has been, as far as I've been able to find, no complaints from the Department of Agriculture about this business. He's operating within scope. He was encouraged to come here by our community development director. I wish she was still here so she could talk about that. So we're part and parcel of why he's here. It is not a universal feeling that he needs to go. That is a group of people who are very vocal about wanting to close this aspect of his business down. But it's not up to us. He's operating a legal business. It was legal when he came in. He was encouraged to come in. Let that piece of it go. Carve that piece out of the ordinance, please.
Thank you. I do want to say that I don't think that you are able to make commentary on what our community development officer or community development department director encouraged, didn't encourage. She's not here to make those statements, so let's not go that direction. We don't know. Thank you.
We don't.
Hello, Council. Tiffany Perkins, Royal Oak. We already have an ordinance in place, so I'm here to support Berkeley. I've been here for every single meeting. We still don't have the original question for Mr. Handy. How many puppies have you sold? In 8 months, we have not received that answer. There is the USDA label attached to what they're doing. Factory farming also has that label attached to what they're doing, and that's not ethical. I have my own nonprofit for disabled dogs. I have to be completely transparent with my entire process, my mortality rates, my success rates, fully vetted. Everything is public. I discuss everything transparently. I'm on the board of several local animal organizations. Everything we do is completely transparent. We are not asking for them to close. We are asking for transparency. There should be accountability with how many dogs are entering, exiting, mortality rates, outlined in what we've created. There is transparency. There is checks and balances. I've been a volunteer with the Detroit Municipal Shelter for 5 years. Very thorough checks and balances. This is not unheard of. It's encouraged, and I hope that we can pass this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I just have a few things to say. I'm not a residency, but I am a supporter of someone who is a residency, actually.
What
my
is your
sister.
name and city of residence?
Miranda. I am a city of residence of Hazel Park, nowhere near here. But I do have a few questions I know you guys can't answer, but for the puppy mill, or puppy gram, whatever you want to call it, so do the inspectors actually inspect the building and the mill, or just the building? That's my question. Because mills are huge, and you can't just inspect that, you know. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. But I think that you have to think about how these people are thinking as well. Do they care about the mental well-being of puppies, or do they care about money? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Gavin Cannon, Taylor, Michigan. I'm just up here to support friends that do live in Berkley, Michigan, with this ordinance being passed today with a yes vote. I'd just like to make a couple comments about what Puppy Graham's attorney and what Miles Handy has said in the past in terms of wording about how the process goes. There's a lot of talk and back and forth between wording on the website as well as different posts on social media. I'm not sure if you guys have been following. They bounce back and forth between the term selling puppies and rehoming puppies. And I think that's something that is to play a trick when they know that, like, the eyes are on them. They want to make it seem like they're not in the business to sell puppies. But as Puppy Graham's attorney had even said earlier, he made many comments to no puppies equals no revenue. And I think that's something really important that we need to focus on, that anybody who truly did care about animal welfare and about the well-being of the animals would not be in it for the dollar amount. They are not in it to make any money. They are not in it to make a profit. I know myself personally, I rescue out of my own pocket orphaned cats and kittens, and no way would I ever think that I would want to make a profit off of that. So again, I think this comes down to transparency and word choice, and how this business is being operated and how they are structuring what they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Dillon, Farmington Hills, longstanding friend of both Miles and Molly, and godfather to their oldest daughter, Maggie. I spoke before when this issue first came up. I wouldn't be speaking if I thought they were at all involved in puppy mill puppies. And as the city attorney had stated, it's a laudable thing to restrict puppy mills where you can. The problem is that's not what this legislation is doing. Earlier tonight, you reviewed a proposal for another vacant building within the city of Berkley to be rehabilitated for the laudable purpose of allowing an attorney to practice Social Security disability law. Now, some may say that there are bad lawyers, and maybe there are some bad lawyers in Social Security disability, but would you allow this attorney to invest $400,000 into the building and then decide, because some lawyers are bad, we're going to prohibit Social Security disability practice within the city of Berkeley. It's a loose analogy, but it fits. And I think that the pause is a prudent step, and grandfathering is as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. Rachel Schuler from Royal Oak, Michigan. Just want to first point out that for the second time at these city council meetings, Jim Dillon, Farmington Hills, has not properly identified himself as the CFO of PuppyGram as per the website on PuppyGram. So I just wanted to put that into the record. But after that, wanted to thank you guys for your service, especially highlighting the component of our multiple touch points and our emails back and forth over the past 8 months as we work together on this ordinance. We appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing, whether that's from the beginning with all of our concerned community members, people outside from like Royal Oak who have an ordinance in place, and people from the inside. And to now, having to navigate last minute, late notice feedback of the ordinance from the store in question. Brakes have been tapped for months, and now in the 11th hour, they show up to council meetings and engage with us. I want to reiterate that inhumane treatment is a big part of this. What also is a big part of this is misleading the consumer with information and exploitative prices that we're worried about, and having Berkeley being the backdrop of this. The narrative that PuppyGram has that we, the concerned community members, are against giving people free choice of where to purchase a dog from is unsubstantiated if where consumers are purchasing a dog from are not being accurately transparent about the following: the parents of the dog, especially the mother, the breeder and the context of that breeder, how many puppies they are breeding at one time, what volume, inconsistent and blatant lies about vaccination records. An example of over-vaccinating dogs at PuppyGram locations so they appear healthy in store and are sick 7 days later when people take them home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, it doesn't appear as though anyone else would like to come up and speak, so I'm going to close public comments. Discussion from council. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah. This is just a stalling tactic from PuppyGram. The claim that no one's reached out to them just is simply false. I reached out to Mr. Handy before any ordinance was introduced. Went into the store to try and meet him there. He wasn't there, so he called me later. You know, I asked for information to support the claims on humane treatment along the entire chain of the process, because my concern isn't just the animals that are in Berkeley, but the ones that don't make it here. And Mr. Handy was evasive during our entire conversation. He was given the opportunity to prove his claims, that there's no association with inhumane treatment, and he chose not to. Then I again reached out to Mr. Handy after we introduced the first ordinance, and he came and spoke to us. And I asked for feedback and specifically voiced my concerns on humane treatment. He responded, but didn't really address any of my concerns. So they've been given ample opportunity to participate, and they chose not to. And this is just an 11th hour attempt to stall further. If we delay this, then there'll be another reason, and then they will probably, if they're going to sue us, they're going to sue us anyway. So I feel like we have talked about this endlessly, and it's time that we make a decision.
Thank you. Any other discussion from council? Mayor Pro Tem Gammon.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think Councilmember Hennon and Ms. Schuler both adequately and accurately expressed my frustration with the 11th hour aspect of this and getting it between readings for this ordinance. Given what our city attorney has talked about, I'm irritated. I am also of the mind that we have a responsibility to let the city attorney talk a little bit more if he needs to about this. In my mind, I think it needs a date certain. I don't want this hanging out there for month after month after month. I think that I'd be willing to give time until the next council meeting, and that is it. A decision, as Councilmember Hennon said, does need to be made on this, and I'd be willing to give you that window to talk more about it and see if there's something that can happen to that effect. So that's where I'm at.
Is that, are you giving that in motion form, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to make a motion to table it or postpone it to a date certain next meeting, and that's it.
Do we have support for
I
that?
would support that.
Okay. So we have two on the floor.
Right, so a motion to approve a second reading and adoption, and then a motion to postpone, which supersedes the original motion.
So
Okay.
have discussion on that first, the latest motion.
Okay, so latest motion on the table, made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin, is to go take another look, allow Attorney Sterin to talk to us about the things that he's mentioned this evening, but have a date certain of our meeting in September to make a final decision. Discussion on that.
The reason I'm supporting that is just the final date. We need to make this decision, but with the 11th hour and all weekend, the emails, just to give Attorney Sterin a chance to review and report back to us, because things have changed over, like we said, well, it's 9 o'clock now, but 3 hours ago we were still receiving emails, so I haven't checked, obviously, since we called the session, but it'll give us a chance, and that's why I support Mayor Pro Tem Gavin's.
Thank you. Councilmember Hennon.
I don't know what will change between now and then. And 2 years is an exceptionally long amount of time to give them. I don't know what giving them even more. And if they want to sue us, they're going to find a reason to sue us. You'll note the original letter from their attorney, Mr. Callis, also spoke about the requirements that we wanted to put on them during that interim were also onerous, and so is that now going to be on the table too? Those were carefully chosen as things that they are already doing and paperwork that they already need to file. So we just want them to file it with us so we can verify it, verify the claims they've been making, because they have been so opaque and during this entire process. So this is just opening up the barn door to try and I think they are afraid of transparency because of what people will find. I really feel like that is what the bottom line is. And they are trying to water this down so that they have a long runway where they can continue to hide behind their opaque practices, where perhaps we could all be surprised, and they are operating completely humanely, but the fact that they have refused every step along the way to do anything in any good faith, to show anything along that, leads me to believe that is extraordinarily unlikely. And I don't see what any delay on this is going to change any of the facts here. So I will be voting no on this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Valenti.
I have a question for Attorney Sterin. So we heard some commentary, and I think this is for the benefit of everyone in the room, about ordinances in other cities that who were trying to do something similar as what we're attempting here today, that they were not overturned, that they were successful in defending those resolutions. I know you've done a lot of research. You've provided us with a lot of that research. So if you could comment on that. And then additionally, even if we were successful in defending anything that we were to stand up, what is the cost to the city, or I should say, is there a cost to the city to defend that through that judgment piece?
Well, there's absolutely going to be a cost. I mean, if you're asking me to give you a number, right now I don't know, and I couldn't give a number until I actually see the lawsuit. In terms of the other issues, it'd be irresponsible for me to be publicly discussing my evaluation of the merits, but suffice it to say from the comments tonight, I've been practicing law for 40 years. I have yet to see the bulletproof case, the guaranteed defensible case. I've been doing municipal law throughout that time. I am telling you that there are concerns, as I have been telling you since February or March, whenever we started this process. To go into this case to think that because some lower court, not even appellate court cases in other states, which actually have different laws and have state enabling legislation, makes this a completely defensible, bulletproof case in Michigan. I'm not going to tell you that, okay? Because again, I think that would be irresponsible. Am I saying that there is no defense to this? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am telling you is the best path, and this goes against my own self-interest, I suppose, as an attorney, but the best course of action when it comes to litigation is to avoid it, if it can be avoided in a way where you're still able to accomplish your goals and objectives. And that was my suggestion to you. I'm not sure we fully explored that. I know there's differing opinions up here, but anyway, it's something that we can discuss with counsel, perhaps in closed session. I don't really want to, I've probably gone into it deeper than I want to tonight, but I do want to state that in spite of what you've heard tonight, the law is not nearly as clear one way or the other. Not nearly. And there are absolutely no cases in Michigan, nor have any of the Michigan ordinances been challenged.
Thank you.
Any other comment or discussion from council? Okay. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on the motion on the floor as amended.
No, the motion to postpone.
The motion to postpone.
Hennan,
No.
Patterson,
Yes.
Villani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 8 on tonight's regular agenda.
Motion number M5823, matter of approving the appointments to various boards and commissions.
Is there a motion to approve item number M5823?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Hennan.
Support.
With support from Mayor Pro Tem Gavin. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Zoning Board of Appeals is the various board that's under scrutiny this evening. Sorry to talk loud. We had 2 members that were ineligible for reappointment due to not having their training hours in hand as the ordinance requires. So we are proposing the promotion of our 2 alternates, Mr. Andrew Creel and Steve Allen, being promoted from alternates to full board members. And if council sees fit to approve this recommendation, then we would advertise the alternative positions being available as well. So hopefully we'd have some good candidates for you on the next agenda as well.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this agenda item? Discussion from council. Ms. Mitchell, will you please call the roll on M5823?
Patterson,
Yes.
Villani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. M5823 has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 9 on tonight's agenda.
Matter of approval to join the Michigan Emergency Management Assistance Compact, MEMAC.
Is there a motion to approve M5923?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Councilmember Patterson with support from Councilmember Villani. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The city has been a member of the Michigan Box Alarm Association for quite some time. We were under the impression, as was the county, that we are already in the MEMAC. this consortium here. And so we need to file the proper paperwork because that seems to be the missing piece here. We've certainly been operating as if we were under the compact. And Emergency Manager Blanchard is here this evening. He's provided the memo as well as the contract. The last part of the contract is the resolution as required, as he indicates in the memo, that we would be submitting officially after council action to be members of MEMAC. So I'm sure Councilmember Blanchard, or sorry, supposed to have it.
Yes.
Emergency Manager Blanchard would be able to fill you in on some additional information.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. I just want to explain to you what the Michigan Emergency Management Compact is. It's a gigantic mutual aid assistance pack. So it provides us ability to request equipment from any of the other communities in the state that are a member of this at a preset reimbursement rate, and it's all the rules are all set there. So it's not negotiation who has what, but it makes it easy for us if we have an emergency or somebody else has an emergency to get the necessary equipment to the right place. And as the city manager said, we thought we were a member of this because we've been in MABUS, Michigan Box Alarm System, for years, and one of the requirements to be in MABUS is to be a member of MEMAC. So in discussion with Darren Page at the county, we found out, oh, we're not on the list. So we're now taking action to correct that. So, but
Thank
unfortunately, we're
goodness.
not the only one. A lot of other ones, we think there was a paperwork glitch somewhere at the state where they lost a bunch of the stuff. But we're trying to rectify our part of it anyway to get back in their good graces and get
Well,
this.
thank you.
know.
Thank you for your work on that, Jack. Any public comment on this agenda item? Discussion from council.
I just want to thank our emergency manager, Blanchard, for his hard work and always making sure that we are where we need to be with our preparedness and making sure that we're in the right MEMAC, as it is here. It's kind of fun to say, too, but to make sure that we have that ability to borrow and share.
Thank you.
Okay. Nobody else? Okay. Ms. Mitchell, will you please call the roll on M5923?
Valani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennon,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. M5923 has passed. Ms. Mitchell, will you please read item number 10 on tonight's agenda?
Resolution number R1923, matter of adopting a resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, establishing a Mayor's Academy on Services and Budget.
Is there a motion to approve R1923?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin with support from Councilmember Patterson. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel kind of silly explaining this to you, but for those watching at home, Mayor's been on the forefront of trying to put together a committee of sorts to provide educational opportunities for residents across the city. Each council member was challenged by the mayor to submit names of individuals they thought would be come from a diverse background, position on the city, affinity for the city, just any type of individual that we thought would make up a good, vast, diverse, or eclectic committee who would serve or undergo this academy and learn some things about our municipalities. There's a ton of information flying around, as we know, kind of half-truths, perceptions, different things that it'd be much, much better if we could have all of the community undergo sort of a little bit more education about how their local government works. But 15 or 16 is a good manageable number. And then again, we think that we have a good collection of individuals here who would then go out and maybe could stomp down some misinformation themselves. So we have our staff ready to provide information about how they prioritize, how the budget affects them, the services they feel are worth submitting for resources year over year, and also just generally education about how they administer services and the feedback they get from people on what's important and what could potentially be altered in some way, really pulling the curtain back, if you will. So with that, you have the list of the 16 individuals here, as well as some background. This will be an ad hoc committee, so this won't be a standing committee. It's a termed committee. It would undergo 9 to 10 sessions, depending on kind of how long that last one takes, and then they would dissolve. And then we'd always have the opportunity to bring this back in 2024, depending, if we like how it goes, or we can alter it in some way. So that's kind of the background, the establishment, as well as how these 16 names were submitted to resolution form.
Thank you, Mr. Baumgarten. So I would like to read everyone's name because I believe not only is this committee important, I want to acknowledge the people that were names submitted to me by council and who said yes. So we have Michelle Buckler, Tim Murad, Cameron Ammon, Jamie Bennett, Barbara Blanchard, Lorraine Branch, Nick Crescenzi, Matt Duggan, Greg DeRoss, Joshua Hunter, Lisa Kempner, Mike Kirby, Bruce Pohl, Dean Smith, Josh Stapp, and Mike Wyasek. And I want to thank all of you, especially Michelle Buckler and Tim Murad, for agreeing to chair and vice chair this group. But I'm delighted that we got the yeses that we did. I look forward to this academy beginning. I know some of you are here tonight who are on the committee. Is there any public comment about this agenda item?
Mike Wysick, I live in Berkeley. I think it's a great idea having this committee, or put together this budget committee. Although I think it's kind of morphed into something that was not originally discussed for quite some time, which it sounds like now it's more of a schooling than it is really an interactive effort of the committee members to really deep dive into the budget, look at maybe ways to cut some costs, maybe generate additional revenue, things like that, to really try to pull the city out of the difficult financial straits that they're in. So I'm a little bit perplexed as to why that change was made last minute. I didn't realize that until I actually saw the packet on Friday. And then my only other comment is that, again, as city manager points out, the original discussion was that it would be a diverse group representing all different kinds of backgrounds, a mixture of finance, maybe non-finance people. So I was a little disheartened to see that half of the committee is comprised of either current or prior planning commission members. That to me is not a balanced committee. So I'm hoping that, so I'm not even sure what they're gonna present because they're all gonna be on the committee. So I'm hoping that they keep an open mind. I'm hoping that they are open to such suggestions and recommendations. As I've had direct conversations with some of you, my concern has always been that the committee would be stacked and therefore it would just be totally taken over, and any kind of sound financial recommendation, operational recommendation that would make sense to anyone who does it. I've been doing this for over 20 years, going in and fixing troubled businesses. So I think I know a thing or two, as I know a lot of the other committee members do as well. So I would hope to think that any sound recommendation, financial or operational, would be shot down just because it doesn't jibe well with Planning Commission. So I just want to go on record to say that. I personally would like to see a more diverse group, not half Planning Commission and then a handful of other miscellaneous residents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Joshua Hunter, Berkeley. As you know, I've been asking for a citizen finance review committees to be formed since January, before the millage was even put on the ballot. So although Academy isn't quite what I had in mind, I'm still open-minded about this and looking forward to participating if the council adopts this resolution for the ad hoc committee. But I am kind of surprised that there doesn't seem to be any mandate for a recommendation or deliverable in the resolution. As the city manager says, it's purely educational. So I know the resolution mentions how there's opportunity for residents serving to identify possible changes, but there's still no recommendation required. So the way I read this resolution, the committee members could simply meet for 10 weeks and be done with no report, recommendation, or any other deliverable. So I want to understand if that was the intention. If this is primarily educational, that's okay with me right now. Probably would get the information requested, but if this is supposed to have some kind of advisory component, which was what I was what I understand it, the deliverable and the requirement should be added to the resolution. But as I said, I'll be present in September if council adopts this resolution as is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Greg DeRoss, Bacon Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this committee. I'm happy that we are at this point. It's been a long time coming. I won't repeat what the other two gentlemen said because it would be repetitious. But I am a bit surprised by what I saw in the resolution, given the fact that I had met with you, Mayor, for twice, and I've talked to, we've had a number of phone calls. I guess what I'm seeking is some clarity. Does the council have expectations that this committee, after they've had 10 weeks of learning, will then go on to make specific recommendations for improvements in financial reporting, service priorities, cuts or changes to operations, and one or more millage proposals? What is it that happens at the end of 10 weeks that takes the education of 16 residents and then tackles both the spending and the revenue problems that we have in the city? Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion from council.
Just for anyone listening at home, I saw there were some questions online about if there are people who are not a member of this group but would like to just watch, learn. Are there opportunities? Can you talk about the nature of these meetings, whether they're public, how they attend, etc.?
Yes, thank you. They are open meetings. The public is welcome to attend. However, we will probably have space constraints depending. It will not be interactive. There won't be a public comment section. All the meetings will be, there will be an audio recording, so people will be able to go back and listen. Not only the people in the academy, but anybody, you know, at home or in the city or outside the city who wants to know about it can access those audio recordings. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Same question, so.
Councilmember Hannan.
Yeah, I do think I would like if we did clarify, are we looking for recommendations? That was, my understanding there was an educational component, and then we are seeking for input and recommendations, and I just want to make sure we clarify that.
Yes, thank you. We are looking for recommendations. This academy is not a policy-setting academy, but we are looking for recommendations. So, okay? Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. And I just want to be clear, too, that the conversations that we as a council were having with residents showed us that there was a need for education about not only the services that the city provides, but within the context of our budget. This academy did not come about because of any agitator or agitation. And there's no one person that should get credit for this academy. I would like to take this opportunity to credit this council for taking the opportunity to educate residents, for City Manager Baumgarten, who when I approached him about this, he jumped right in. He's been very supportive of this, and he's worked with me to make this academy a reality. I also want to acknowledge all the city departments, department heads, and their staff who are putting forth the time and effort developing the curriculum, to make this academy happen. I'm surprised that I'm getting such pushback on education from all these smart people here. I know that we continue to learn as we go, and my feeling is, my belief is, that in order to stand a fund-based budget, to understand municipal finance, you need to understand, have some semblance of understanding of every department in the city, the services they provide within the context of the budget, any unfunded mandates that each department is responsible for, and then we'll have a conversation about revenue sharing, or lack thereof, but it is getting better. So I do want to say that, to put that in there too. So on that note, Ms. Mitchell, I would like to call the roll on R1923.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. R 1923 has passed. Ms. Mitchell, will you please read item number 11 on tonight's agenda?
Motion number M6023, matter of approving a cost-sharing agreement regarding 2022 Safe Streets and Roads for All SA4A grant program.
Is there a motion to approve M 6023?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin with support from Councilmember Valani. Mr. Baumgarten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you recall from previous conversations, the city of Ferndale, Berkley, Hazel Park, Huntington Woods, Madison Heights, Oak Park, and Pleasant Ridge all jointly filed a grant for to fund planning activities to figure out how to facilitate better crossings and safer crossings across our various regional connectors, Woodward being a large focus of this, but also 11 Mile and whatever interest area that maybe some of the individual communities may have had as well. We were successful, largely because of the big footprint of this project and how much land. I think it's almost nearly a little bit over 120,000 residents across all these communities here. And so we won a grant of $385,000 under an 80-20 matching requirement there. So as you'll see in Exhibit B of the information provided in your packet, it's divvied up across those communities. Most of the communities, like ourselves, will have our obligation will be $14,895.84. The only exemption of that is City of Ferndale, paying roughly half because they are serving as the fiduciary and will be committing most of the staff time for this. They had the bandwidth, if you will, to do so. So in total, the locals will provide $96,250.04. And again, that is to match an 80% amount from the federal government here, and to continue to try to connect our communities, not just by vehicles, but for anyone who's traveling in any manner that they see fit, motorized or non-motorized. So that is the ask that you have before you this evening.
Thank you. Public comment on this agenda item? Discussion from council. Ms. Mitchell, will you please call the, sorry, Councilmember Hennan.
Yeah, just again want to emphasize this is just study, looking into things. No decisions are being made, and even at the input and their recommendations, and still we would have to act on them if we chose to.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell, would you now call the roll on M6023?
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. M6023 has passed. Ms. Mitchell, will you please read item number 12 on tonight's agenda?
Motion number M6123, matter of considering participation in the Teva, Allergen, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart national opioid settlements, and authorize the city manager to sign the participation agreements on the city's behalf.
Is there a motion to approve M6123?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Valani with support from Councilmember Dooley. Mr. Baumgarten.
So if you recall, there are two previous awards that were slotted for Michigan as well. That has come before council in the past. There continues to be favorable case law set by these agreements. I'll direct you to your packet. There's a nice write-up on how this came about and the ongoing efforts of the Michigan AG's office included in your packet. But we have to actually formally say yes to participating in this. And so what this means for the city of Berkley is over the next 15 years or so, we'll have roughly about $15,000 in settlement money coming our way. That's the cumulative amount, not the annual amount. But again, we continue to benefit from the hard work of the AG's office, and we want to use this monies to tackle the opioid crisis, whatever form it takes, whether it's addressing existing or focusing more on prevention in our community. So I know we've got a lot of great community organizations that work on behalf of this noble cause. So this does give us an opportunity to perhaps infill some of the funding that we were not able to put in this particular budget where we had to make some cuts. So we do plan to use this for its intended purpose.
Thank you. Public comment. Discussion from council. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M6123.
Hendon,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, M6123 has passed. Ms. Mitchell, who goes first?
Councilmember Patterson.
Again.
Right.
It's like twice in a row. The Planning Commission met last month and to discuss the project that came before us. There's maybe some shifting of members on the Planning Commission. One person resigned due to a conflict, possible conflict, wasn't substantiated, but they felt they needed to step down. So we are looking for one more member of the Planning Commission. And the next meeting in August was canceled due to not having a quorum. So the following meeting will be September 26th at 7 p.m. here in Chambers. Kind of fitting for the proclamation that I was asked and honored to read today. There is International Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st. Wear purple in remembrance of over 100,000 lives lost due to overdose. So that's again on August 31st. And then I just wanted to thank Victoria, our city clerk, Mitchell, for the election that you and your team put together. I'm sure the mayor's going to talk about a visitor you had. If not, I'll add a comment at the end. So I'll defer for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
The tree board, their summer hiatus ends soon. They'll next meet on September 25th. Then the Zoning Board of Appeals will meet tomorrow, August 15th, to consider a dimensional variance on a lot split. And then just a question for the city manager when we get to his comments. He had shared an update on the crosswalks, the downtown crosswalks that we heard about earlier today, and I wondered if he could just briefly give an update to the public on that when it comes around to you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Gavin.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next meeting of the Environmental Advisory Committee will be tomorrow, the 15th at 6:30 in the conference room on the second floor of Public Safety. And then as for Parks and Rec, fall programs are out and registration is open. So you can visit recreation.berkleymich.org for more information on the programs and registration. We have one concert left in the summer Berkeley Beats series on August 30th at Oxford Park at 7. Harmonic Swell and the Bridge of Reverberation will be playing. So our summer outdoor movies continue on August 24th at Oxford with an ice cream social and additional recreation activities from Oakland County. Super Mario Brothers movie will be shown. Took my son, it's pretty good, so come on out and watch it. Make sure to come out Friday night for Berkeley's Classic Cruise Fest Parade on the 18th. Parade begins at 6:30 and travels west on 12 Mile through the downtown. Stay for activities including live music, movie, food vendors, and other activities will be taking place along 12 Mile in downtown. And the next meeting will be October 12th at 7 p.m. at the Community Center. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Villani.
Yes, so there have been no meetings for CEAC and TAC. That continues to be on pause while we're waiting for our new communications director to onboard. For the Berkeley Area Chamber, this Friday the 18th at 8:30 a.m. is our August Chamber Chat. It will be held at Quality Roots on 11 Mile. No need to register, you can just show up. As Councilmember Gavin mentioned, it is Cruise Fest this Friday, so you can buy your limited edition t-shirt at Vitrine, Michigan State Federal Credit Union, or Dog and Pony, our neighbors to the south. They are $20. They will also be available the day of underneath the marquee. Saturday, September 30th, we don't want to fast forward too much, is the Kit Home Tour, and more details will be coming soon on that. And this is also your friendly reminder, have you bought your Berk Perk card? There are great discounts on a ton of different restaurants and retail. They can be purchased for $30 at Woodward Corners and other stores as well. One of the featured retailers is a favorite, Neighbor's Shop, and if you spend $20 there, you get a free cookie, which I think we all need after this meeting. You also get 10% off gift items and 10% off 4 bottles of wine, which we all might also need after this meeting. So support your local retail and your local stores with a Berk Perk card. And that is all.
Thank you. Councilmember Dooley.
Thank you. Beautification Committee, their next meeting is on the 23rd. They have not met too much during the summertime. It's at 6:30 at Pinspiration on Coolidge. So did I say that right?
You did, but,
did, but they're
it's
not there.
Coffee and Bark now.
Oh, that's what they have it on the website then. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
Oops.
They haven't changed it. I guess I'll get with Dan.
Okay.
Nothing to report at the library, although they are starting their updated hours, Labor Day. I didn't want summer to end. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they will, starting September 5th, they'll be open from 10 to 8. On Thursday, 10 to 6. Friday, 1 to 6, and on Saturday on 10 to 3. So please stop by the library, say hi, thank you, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baumgarten.
In the time since this meeting started, we've had a large water main break. But it's actually not, when I say we, it's not strictly the city of Berkeley's. So the county is actually working on a transmission line that broke on Webster between Royal and Buckingham. No one in Berkeley should be without water, although there was a slight chance of water discoloration as they pressurize the system from kind of different directions to maintain the flow and pressure there. Our own DPW crews have been on hand assisting with road closures, and as of 7:38, they're assisting in any way that may be needed. But we're 2 hours past that now, so I'm sure they've already taught them everything they need to know about fixing water main breaks by this point. So, just yet another opportunity where public service in action, something that wasn't even ours. But we did commit our crews there to help and where needed, when needed, and if needed. And so they stand ready at any point, and kudos to them for that. Also want to note, between now and our next meeting, all of the little kiddos of Berkeley will be heading back to school. So as always, just keep an extra eye out in your mornings and around the 3 o'clock hour as our sidewalks get very busy. Road crossings get very busy. So I know it's state law now, but just reiterate, if you're driving, facing forward, free of distractions, just to make sure that, we don't have any of the worst case scenarios that we've seen in other places over the years, and make sure our little ones can get to and from school safely. As on the topic of safely moving around on foot on the community, we have almost completed our work at JC Park. For the new trails there and the new sidewalks there. We're starting the work at Oxford Park to connect that park area and the play area at the north end between there to Oxford Road itself. And then also we are working after that, we'll be starting the trail project that will run from 12 Mile up to Webster along the cemetery side. And that'll be replacing the broken up asphalt pathway that's there. And then finally, we do have work that's happening on Coolidge in order largely to facilitate better crossings for both drivers and our pedestrians there. We did not get favorable bids back on some of the work for the crosswalks and the restriping of the intersection at 12 and Coolidge. So what we're going to do is change tactic. Instead of having an all-in-one bid package, we're going to try to make them more specialized so that a general contractor looking this might not have to pull together as many subs. We can just go directly to the individuals that would be doing the work. So pavement work, relocating the flashers for the crosswalk, some of the drainage work that would happen along the curb line there, that would all be largely under one bid. And then the restriping portions at 12 and Coolidge would be under a different bid. So really in total, 4 great projects going on that help people move around our community and visit all the great things that it has, whether you're in a car or on foot. So all good things. Each of these projects, it should be noted, are not general fund projects, but out of our major local road fund. That's an allocation that we get from the state through the gas tax, but we are required to spend at least 1% each year or the cumulative of 10% of those revenues in a 10-year period on non-motorized functionality. So we have no problem doing that. We continue to invest in every single portion of our road and sidewalk network, and as indicated by all that you'll see happening now. Last but not least, certainly not least, I want to thank our city clerk. As you know, we had an election last week, even though it wasn't for the benefit of the city government. It was a city government that stood ready to do a fantastic job in the administration of elections. And our city clerk is on the cutting edge. We had that affirmed at every level, both by her peers, by the county, and by the state government as well. Our city clerk is second to no one, and she runs a mean election, I can tell you that. We have some of the best educated poll workers, election captains, just across the board. It's largely happens on the backs of volunteers, but all coordinated by the commander-in-chief of elections herself, the city clerk. So it's a pleasure to get to watch her in action, and thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sterin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. When I was racing to get here this evening from my other meeting, I heard them talking over and over on the radio about flood watch. I thought they were talking about the weather. I had no idea they were talking about the water main break here. But in any event, hopefully it's limited to that and we don't get the rain. Been working on a number of day-to-day things. We've had some interesting ordinance enforcement issues come up that we've been working on. Obviously, we've been spending a lot of time, continue to spend a lot of time on the pet store ordinance, and even more recently, the zoning ordinance rewrite is now at a level where there is readables, deliverables available, and I am being drafted to get involved in reviewing the drafts. So I've got some exciting reading ahead of me, but actually, it's that kind of stuff that makes me tick. That's the kind of stuff that I like. Something wrong with me, but so we'll be working very closely with Ms. Kapelansky and the planning consultants and so on, and look forward to getting that ready so that the Planning Commission and the City Council will soon have something to have at, and hopefully it'll be another one of those products and well thought efforts that will help advance and move the community forward.
Thank you. So, Councilmember Patterson, you kind of teed that up for me nicely. I had the pleasure of meeting Secretary of State Benson this past election. I got the phone call, this is where you need to be and at what time, and I was like, okay. So it was exciting to meet her, and she was doing like a little mini multi-city tour on that day, but she specifically came here to Berkley because of the great job that our clerk, Victoria Mitchell, does. I mean, Oakland County has a reputation for being, they set the bar for elections in terms of safety and transparency and all those things, and within Oakland County, our clerk rises even to the top of that. So kudos to you, Ms. Mitchell. The vast knowledge that she had, I mean, procedurally, all the things that she just knows off the top of her head. I just bring the donuts and they do all the work. So thank you so much for that. I want to shout out to Morgan Kurzenga from Chemistry Salon. The salon received the 2023 We Sustain Beauty Award from Davinus. Davinus Beauty, they're a world leader in sustainable beauty products, and so I want to congratulate Morgan on that. I know she works really hard to keep her salon at the forefront of everything. I mean, they transformed a former transmission shop, and they even recycle the air. You get your hair cut, they collect the hair, it goes somewhere. I mean, there's nothing in there is wasted. So, good job, Morgan. And then I had the pleasure of attending the Michigan Association of Mayors Summer Workshop this past Wednesday through Friday. That was held in Northville, and I got to spend some time with other mayors from across the state, and we discussed, best practices. Yes, I'm not gonna lie, we commiserated with one another. Talked about, it was great to hear about what worked in some communities, what we might wanna try, and every community is different sizes, but at the end of the day, it's all people who love their cities. We took a bus tour of Northville, and the mayor of Northville, Brian Turnbull, is Like, he makes the Energizer Bunny look lazy. I mean, the guy is constant motion all the time, and there's no bigger cheerleader for the city of Northville. But he talked to us about how the town has changed over time. I'm going to say this, they still had wooden pipes in their infrastructure not that long ago, but that's all been changed over now. They took us to their farmers market, which was really a highlight. Obviously, it didn't start out as big and robust as it is, but it's incredible. They too have a large number of kid homes in Northville, and it made me think of the kid home tour that we're doing here. We were also updated on news from the legislature by the Michigan Municipal League, and I'm not going to go through all the things because it's really late, and if you want to know more, you can call me. But they did talk about Headley reform, and I was encouraged to hear that. City Manager Baumgarten and I met with Senator McMorrow, Representatives Weiss and Price this morning, and we were also talking about Headley reform. So something's coming. They have to figure out what they're going to, you can't just take Headley away. They have to figure out what they're replacing it with, but I'm encouraged by the conversation that there is some reform talk going on. And at the end of the day, we really, all the mayors and everybody at this table, we want our residents to feel proud about where they live. And on that note, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Villani with support from Councilmember Patterson. And how about calling the roll, Ms. Mitchell?
Villani,
Yes.
Dooley,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. The Monday, August 14th, 2023 meeting of the Berkeley City Council has been adjourned.